Naruto God Level System, Chapter 1041-1060. Chapter 41 of the First Thousand Fog. Have mercy on each other. Yuanzi came to Chen's side and whispered to Chen. What kind of love? Chen looked at Yuanzi suspiciously. What did Bai Yinyan want to tell him? Do you want to come? Yuanzi's anticipation eyes swayed Chen, obviously wanting to let Chen participate. Exhibition? What exhibition? I don't know that either. Sonoko shook his head. What the exhibition was, but her mother asked her to invite Chen over there. By the way, this is my mother's invitation. You must show respect, Sonoko said to Chen. Oh, since it is your mother's invitation, I will naturally go. Chen's eyes flashed, wiping strange. Then you mean, if 803 inches is my own invitation, you won't lose face? Why? Yuanzi glared at Chen angrily. I didn't say that, Chen said after shrugging. Although you didn't say that, but you mean it. Sonoko snorted softly and said unreasonably. Sure enough, women are unreasonable. It's a waste of my time for me to reason with you. 33 inches what? You actually said that women are unreasonable. Okay. I want to tell others. Sonoko ran directly to the living room. Tell other people, but Joshi picks up Chen with all the bad eyes. He later said he was very helpless. Don't get me wrong, I mean Sonoko is not making sense, just referring to Sonoko himself. Chen explained to them. Shaolin and the others looked at Sonoko with strange eyes, and those strange eyes made Sonoko's face light up. No, he didn't say that just now, Sonoko said, looking at the daily dejectedly. Really? We didn't hear it, Shaolin and the others said with a smile. HMPH, I ignore you. Sonoko turned his head angrily. Seeing the garden seems to be really bullish. Shaolin quickly comforted her equals when she stayed here until evening. Shaolin and the others were also ready to leave. Chen, don't forget what I told you, Yuanzi reminded Chen. Don't worry, you can't forget it. Chen said to Yuanzi, this is no longer Yuanzi. I said it for the first time. P has been repeated several times. Sure enough, the essence of human beings is when the repeater came to the door and Sora was about to send them back. Suddenly, I saw Hattori and Konan walking towards Akasabo Tujiaguo. Hattori, Heiji and Konan were also stunned for a second. They went out to buy things, but they didn't expect to pass by Hyuga Chen's door when they went back to meet Hyuga Chen. This is not the main thing. Mainly next to Hyuga Chen, Mai stood Shaolin and Hiyi. As for the others, they were randomly dropped by Hattori, Heiji and Konan. Sister Shaolin, why did your awareness here come to mind again? After giving Hyuga Chen a bad look, Konan asked. I'm playing at Chen's house. Konan, you're here recently. Are you waiting at home? Shaolin was a little surprised when she looked at Konan, but she didn't expect to see Konan. Konan, how was your time at Akasa Hiroshi's house? Shaolin asked Konan about Konan's current situation. At Dr. Ali's house, Shaolan was not worried. Because Konan was originally a distant relative of Dr. A's signature. After all, both Ali Hiroshi and Konan said this before. It's okay. Konan's expression stiffened, then said. What a shit, etc. Who too can't even take care of himself, so the doctor's house in the period can be imagined. Quite bad. I actually saw Shaolin here. Shaolin actually came to look for Hyuga Chen, and Konan's mood exploded immediately. Itchy, but there is a person next to him who is more itchy than Kiba, and that is Hattori Heiji. After all, compared to Konan, Hattori Heiji is even worse than him, and he was sent to the medical school by Hyuga Chen before. Seeing Hattori Heiji, Kazuya asked in a somewhat contrite manner, are you out of the forest? How did you know? Anshuba. And Hattori Heiji didn't know Yuan Shan and Yi knew that he was beaten. How did he know now? Could it be that Hyuga Chen told her? Suddenly, Hattori Heiji looked at Hyuga Chen with an ugly face. Why are you looking at me? Do you still want to compete with me? Chen looked at Hattori with a faint smile. You have just been discharged from the hospital. Don't go in again. My mother came to see you. ? Hattori Heiji asked Chen, put the rest aside for the time being and think about what Konan told him before. Hattori Heiji is going to ask clearly. That's right, It looks like Hattori Shizuka told you. Chen didn't think Hattori Heiji knew something was wrong. In fact, Hattori Shizuka didn't tell him. If Conan didn't tell him, Hattori Heiji probably wouldn't know. Hattori Heiji didn't speak, but Chen didn't bother to say anything to him. Let's go Shaolin, I'll take you back, Chen said to Shaolin and the others. When Hattori Heiji was about to say something, Conan suddenly grabbed Hattori Heiji, then dragged Hattori Heiji and left. Back to Akasa Hiroshi. Conan only let go of Hattori Heiji after he got home. Why are you pulling me? Conan turned to Byakugan when he heard the words, why are you pulling you? Of course I'm afraid that you will get hot and then rush up. What if you get beaten? If you say that you were beaten and hospitalized again, I'm afraid Hattori Jingwawe he will take him back, and even Hattori Haizang will take him back. No matter how stubborn Hattori Heiji is, it will be useless. I'm not stupid, I can restrain myself. Hattori Heiji glanced at Conan and said. Ha. Conan smiled coldly. If he could restrain himself 7 times, he wouldn't be beaten before, and now he says he can restrain himself. Curly believes that there are ghosts. What do you mean when? Hattori Heiji looked at Conan unhappily, and Keihihi told Hattori Heiji that this was really missing. It's nothing. Shinan shook his head and didn't say anything about Hattori Heiji snorted coldly. In fact, Hattori Heiji's heart is very irritable now. Thinking of seeing Yuenshin and Yi at the door of Hyuga Chen's house, his heart is uncomfortable. However, he is not the only one who suffers. Conan on the side is also very uncomfortable. In fact, the two of them are completely sympathetic to each other. What's the matter? Are you two all right? After Dr. Aga came out of the laboratory, looking at the expressions of Heiji, Hattori and Conan, he couldn't help asking. Chapter 1042. I would love to see Hiroshi Hattori and Conan asking questions about Hattori Heiji and Conan's concern, but the two of them didn't speak, with a cold look on their faces. 3 inches you two are having a conflict. Akasa Hiroshi look. He glanced at Conan, and then glanced at Hattori Heiji. It was obvious that the two of them seemed to be quarreling. The play. Conan and Hattori Heiji did not answer. Vice silence. Hiro Akasa was stunned and didn't know what to say. What can I do to persuade Conan and Hattori Heiji and the two of them? Is it necessary for the two of you to have a conflict? Hiroshi Akasa was puzzled and couldn't help but say. At this time, Conan and Hattori Heiji were also more rational. In fact, the reason why the two were arguing just now was entirely because they didn't agree with each other, so they didn't seem to like each other, but now they have calmed down a bit. Sorry, I did something wrong before. Conan said to Hattori Heiji. No need to apologize. 27 In fact, I should thank you. If you hadn't pulled me away, maybe I really couldn't control myself. Hattori Heiji shook his head at Conan and said. If it wasn't for Conan holding him back, maybe he really couldn't help it and would fight with Hyuga Chen again. The result at that time would definitely be sent to the hospital. After all, he could not Hyuga Chen's opponent. Seeing that the conflict between the two of them was resolved, Dr. Akasa was relieved and said nothing more. By the way, didn't you go shopping? What about the things you bought? Kasabotu suddenly asked the two of them. Didn't he go to buy something to eat? Where is the food now? Didn't I buy it back? Also, why did they suddenly have a conflict? This Dr. Agasa also wanted to know. At that time, Conan and Hattori Heiji's expression froze, and the thing was bought. But when Conan pulled Hattori Poji back, he was thrown away by the angry Hattori Wangji. Conan's eyes turned to Hattori Heiji. That was a purchase. The food was thrown away by Hattori Heiji just like that. I'll go pick it up again. Hattori Heiji got up and said. I'm going to order takeout. Conan shook his head and said, you are still advancing. Hattori Heiji glanced at Conan, then walked out. He really went to pick it up. Conan looked at Hattori Heiji, quite speechless. In a blink of an eye, the time passed. Early in the morning, Sonoko called Chen. Chen, before you haven't forgotten what I told you. You mean the exhibition held by the Suzuki Foundation too? You haven't told me what the exhibition is. Who? And Sonoko said. It's a jewelry exhibition. After I asked my sister, she told me that it was a jewelry exhibition. very beautiful jewelry, Sonoko said. I don't have any interest in this. Chen shook his head and Wen said too seriously, he really has no interest in the so-called jewelry. 0 inches don't you come. You promised me, don't regret it, and if you don't come, I'm afraid this mother will teach me a lesson. You don't want to see me being taught a lesson, right? Sonoko's voice suddenly became a little pathetic. Who said I didn't want it? I'd love to see it. Chen couldn't help but said with a smile. His laughter was obviously heard by Sonoko. Garden is in a bad mood. Needless to say, the bad guy Chen must be laughing at himself. If you don't come, I'll go to your house and arrest you. I want you to look good, Yuanzi said with a light snort. Okay, then you can arrest me. Chen said with a slight smile. Okay, just wait, I'll catch you. After that, Sonoko hung up the phone, as if Sonoko really wanted to come over and arrest him. In that case, just wait at home. Anyway, the garden will come. Xiao, are you interested in the jewelry exhibition? The jewelry exhibition held by Suzuki Finance. Chen said to Shui. I'll go with you. Xiao nodded and said. Chen looked at Xiaodong in surprise. To be honest, Chen just asked, and never thought that Xiao would agree to the past. Who would have thought that Xiao actually agreed? Don't you want me to go? Xiao glanced at Chen and asked. That's not true, I just feel strange. You actually promised Wo Chen and thought that Shujing would reject it because Chen felt that Xiao Ying child would not be interested in this, but I didn't expect Yi to be really interested, I just went to look at you. Xiao glanced at Chen, and Ohu said, look at me, what do I have to look at? Chen looked at Xiao inexplicably and asked, there should be a lot of beautiful women in this exhibition. So you should know why. Bermode suddenly said with a smile. Glancing at Bermode, Xiao didn't speak, that was indeed the reason. Say, are you interested in going to see? Chen asked the others. I'm interested and I also followed. Can I get up and go? Yuzuzi looked at Chen with bright eyes. Except for the name of Shizi, others did not have much interest in this exhibition. Soon after, Yuanzi came to Chen's house. Hey, I'm here to catch you now. Let's go, Shaolin and Hiyi are waiting, hurry up. Sonoko took Chen's hand and walked outside. Why are you in such a hurry? Chen took Xiao, Mingmei 947 and Yuchizi, and followed Yuanzi to open the house. 3 Actually, Mingmei didn't want to go. But Xiao took Mingmei and Bai Jing Mingmei at home, and Xiao also I can't see it anymore. It turns out that the exhibition was on a cruise ship. Chen and the others came to the beach, looked at the cruise ship docked on the coast, and couldn't help but say, yeah, it's right here. Sonoko nodded, and then said, let's hurry up, we will set sail in a while. If you don't go, you won't go. Makan Lu soon boarded the cruise. Looking at the crowd around, Chen whispered, we and the others are really flowing in. Everyone else was dressed in dresses. A tent, and Chen they are wearing casual clothes. Look out of tune with the people around you. By the way, you are the master. Are you dressed like this? I thought Sonoko would put on some makeup. Chen looked at Sonoko and said. Chen, are you looking forward to my makeup? Sonoko asked Chen involuntarily. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you wear makeup or not. I think it's better for you to take off the headband you put on and let your hair down. Chen said to Sonoko. Sonoko, you look really ugly wearing a headband. If the headband is put down, she must be a beauty no worse than Xiaolan and the others. Sonoko sounded a little depressed. She was really ugly with a headband. Chapter 1043. Do you want to be my daughter? Xiaolan, do you think it's really ugly for me to wear a headband? Sonoko asked Xiaolan next to her. 3 inches I don't think the garden is ugly. Xiaolan shook her head. Hearing Xiaolan's words, Sonoko looked at her with smug eyes, and even Xiaolan, a beautiful woman, didn't feel that her headband was ugly. Well, it's not ugly, but you can't call it a beauty. If you put down your headband, it must be beautiful. Chen took off Yuanzi's headband, and the hair on his forehead was scattered. After the bangs, Yuanzi's temperament followed. Chang Xiaolan, he stared at Yuanzi with wide eyes. The change was really a wife, if they didn't know it was Yuanzi. They all wondered if they had recognized the wrong person. Beautiful, he said. Sonoko couldn't help but looked in the mirror. It's really beautiful and high, and it can't be Niu Shaolin at all. Although Shaolin and Shaolin are good best friends. But Sonoko thought that Shaolin was more beautiful than her, but now Sonoko looked at her and suddenly felt confident. It turns out that I can be so beautiful, I really couldn't believe it before. How is it? Do you feel like you are beautiful now? Let's do it in the future. Chen said with a smile, if that's the case, why didn't you advise me earlier? Sonoko gave Chen a resentful look. Chen's expression won. You can blame me for borrowing this, why don't you blame yourself for having a problem with your aesthetics? Chen pouted so ugly, and then he didn't argue with Sonoko. Because it's hard to argue with a woman, and it's not easy to get in with a woman, let alone Sonoko will reason with him. Not at all. Hey, why are you leaving? Don't get lost. Sonoko called out to Chen. I'm not an idiot, how could I get lost? Zanfelice gave Yuanzi a look, and then said. Xiaolan, wasn't your father also invited? Why didn't you hear 1 to 2? Yuanzi asked Xiaolan. That's when Uncle Maori received a commission and went to work. It's rare to be so serious. He said. So that's what it is. Sonoko nodded lightly. No wonder he didn't come, it turned out to be a commission. Sister, let's talk here, Xiao Ai said to Ming Mei, and then followed Chen. Bi Yujing came here to stare at Chen. The reason why she saw Chen leaving now was because she followed him directly. Didn't you say this is a jewelry exhibition? Why didn't you see Zhu Jun? Yukiko asked Sonoko strangely. Aunt Yukiko, it hasn't started yet. Sonoko said to Yuchizi, what did you call me just now? Yukiko stared at Sonoko with dangerous eyes, which made Sonoko feel a strong sense of crisis. Shaolin glanced at the garden. Then gave her a self-seeking look. Cough, I was just calling you to have a sister, didn't you hear? Sonoko said with a light cough. Yukiko retracted her dangerous gaze just now. That's pretty much it. Yukiko was very satisfied with Sonoko's reaction, and Sonoko couldn't help but twitch her lips. But it was secret, and she must not be seen by Yukiko, otherwise, Yukiko wouldn't let him go easily. On the other side, Chen glanced at Xiao Ai twice, and then asked, why are you following me, Xiao Ai? Do you think I'm getting in your way? Xiao Ai glanced at Chen, and then settled down, no. How dare I feel that Xiao Ai is in the way? What are you afraid of? Xiao Ai pouted and said. There are too many things I dare not go to. Chen came to the deck and looked at the sea in the distance. It feels boring to come here. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have followed Yuanzi to participate in this exhibition. Chen looked into the distance with a dull expression. I have no interest in any kind of jewelry, I feel that coming here is suffering. Xiao Ai stood beside Chen, and Chen looked at Taihai in the distance, enjoying the tranquil atmosphere at the same time, but soon the tranquil atmosphere was broken. A voice came suddenly. Chen, are you here too? Hearing the familiar voice, Chen turned his head and saw Fei Yingli, but he didn't expect Niu Yingli to be here too. Yingri, are you here too? Chen looked at Fei Yingri strangely, as if to see the strangeness of Chen. Concubine Eri said, this is an invitation from the Suzuki Foundation, and famous people from Kimura have also been invited. There are quite a few people invited by the Suzuki Foundation, and even Kogoro Mori has been invited. However, Kogoro Mori couldn't come because he was really entrusted. You are too busy to come here. In fact, this is the strangest thing for me. Chen said, even if I'm busy, can't I rest for a while? Fei Ying rationalized her eyes and said, that's not what I meant. Chen shook his head and said. Xiao Ai looked at Fei Yingli and Chen, why did she feel that the relationship between the two of them was a little different? Was it her illusion? Xiao Ai didn't think it was an illusion. By the way, Shaolin is here too. Have you seen her? Chen asked with Fei Yingli. Xiaolan. Fei Yingli shook her head when she heard the words. She didn't see Xiaolan and didn't know that Xiaolan was also here. However, I thought of the relationship between my daughter and Suzuki Sonoko, the second lady of the Suzuki Consortium. It's not surprising that Shaolin will come. It is estimated that Chen will come here, and it is also invited by Yuanzi. But concubine Yingri really guessed wrong on this point. It was not Sonoko who invited Chen. It was Tomoko Suzuki. But even if Tomoko didn't invite Tatsu, Sonoko would take she to come here, right? What are you doing here? Fei Yingri asked Tatsu. Blowing the sea breeze. I feel a little bored, how about you? Chen also asked I'm not much worse than you, as Zhao Good. Fei Yingli said, she also felt a little bored, so she came out of. Xiao Ai frowned. She knew that Fei Yingli was Shaolin's mother, but she seemed to ignore her. And listening to the communication between him and Russia, it seems that there is some unusual relationship, so Xiao Ai's brows can't help but wrinkle with anger. Isn't there a real relationship between them? This is. Fei Yingli looked at Xiao Ai. To be honest, this is Fei Yingli. It was the first time I saw Xiao Ai, so I was a little curious about this little girl who followed Chen. Chen smiled slightly, and then said, who is your sister? Xiao Aisha said with her mouth closed. Second, otherwise, what are you me? Do you want to be my little birdie? Chen suddenly asked Xiao Ai in a teasing manner. When Xiao Ai heard the words, she was furious and actually said that I was you. The daughter raised her fist and punched Chen. Chapter 44 of the First Thousand Fog. The frowning was slammed by the angry Xiao Ai, and then Xiao Ai hummed and left. There won't be any problem if she leaves by herself. Fei Haley looked at Xiao Ai's back and said, after all, she was a little girl, so Fei Yingli was a little worried about no. Xiao Ai is not a real child. How could something happen? She wouldn't go to Mingmei to complain now. Probably not. After all, with Xiao Ai's character, she would definitely not make a complaint. Chen and Fei Yingli chatted for a while, and Shaolin and the others suddenly appeared here. Shaolin's expression was very surprised after seeing Fei Yingli. Mom, you are here even before we meet. Smile slightly, then walk towards Shaolin. They will come, of course because of Xiao Ai. Xiao Ai told Xiaolan the news of Fei Yingdi's coming, and then Xiaolan I couldn't wait to arrive. Yingri, did you only see your daughter Xiaodong? Yukiko looked at Fei Yingli dissatisfiedly and said. Why are you here, Yukiko? Just now, 680 feet's attention was on Shaolin, and Fei Yingli really didn't see you Janzi. But now I see after Yukiko. Fei Eri looked a little surprised that Yukiko had come here to participate in the exhibition. Why can't I come? Yukiko snorted and felt as if Fei Yingri said she couldn't come. The exhibition is about to start. Come on quickly, Sonoko said. You are Sonoko. Fei Yingri looked at Sonoko with questioning eyes. Because the change of Sonoko was really a wife. So Fei Yingri was a little afraid to recognize it. Did you admit defeat? Sonoko looked at Fei Yingri strangely. As a lawyer, he should not be so forgetful. Fei Yingli has been to the garden a lot of times before, but now he doesn't recognize the garden. That's all because of the changes in the garden. It's really my wife, and I couldn't recognize it for a while. Following Yin Yin, the group came to the exhibition hall. The place was full of all kinds of jewelry. Chen just glanced at it and lost interest. For others, this is not bad jewelry. But for Chen, these things are really worthless. He rents too much. It's so straight. Chen picked up a glass of wine and drank alone in a corner. At this time, Xiao Aizong. He came over with a piece of cake, and then sat next to Chen. Aren't you interested? Chen asked Xiao Ai. Well, I'm not interested in those things. Xiao Ai nodded lightly. I have always disliked jewelry. Have you seen Edogawa Konan's kimono? Xiao Ai raised her head and asked Chen. Chen Weiwei hugged and said, you mean Edo 1 Chuan Shangsheng and Hattori Heiji are also here 9, and Akasa Hiroshi, probably they came with Dr. Akasa. Xiao Ai nodded and said. Chen nodded, and then ignored it, saying that the two of them will not come. It has nothing to do with Chen, and Chen doesn't pay attention to how they are at all. 3 inches. What do you mean? They are coming too. What does it have to do with me? Chen glanced at Xiao Ai, and Zhu Xiao Ai's question was somewhat intriguing. Didn't you say that they are both gods of death, and now that they are here together, there might be an accident? Straight's accident has nothing to do with me. Chen raised his hand and gently tapped on Xiao Ai's forehead, and then took the cake from Xiao Ai's hand. Well, It tastes very good. Chen nodded, very satisfied. Xiaoai was stunned for a moment. She glanced at Chen lightly, and then took the cake back. Go get it yourself if you want to eat it. Xiaoai said lightly. 3 inches, where can I get it myself? There are delicious ones that I grabbed. I feel very good, Chen said with a smile. I think you were deliberately trying to bully me. Xiaoai looked at Chen angrily, wishing to slap the cake in her hand directly on Chen's face. Do you want to slap the cake directly on me? On your face? Chen asked Daochen to Xiaoai, but she was able to tell what she was thinking. Because you have already shown it on the surface, can I still not see it? Chen shrugged, and then said. So, I'm going to find Mingmei and the others. Are you still sitting here? Chen stood up and asked Xiaoai. Xiaoai stood up directly, then followed Chen. Followed by Chen, they went to find Akemi and she waited until they came to their side. Chen found Tomoko Suzuki was also here. Chen looked at Tomoko Suzuki, and after seeing Chen, Tomoko Suzuki blinked at Chen secretly. No one else looked. Arrived, but Xiaoai was standing next to Chen. Of course it was impossible not to see it. What's going on? Xiaoai asked Chen. What's going on? Chen looked at Xiaoai inexplicably. What's the matter with Tomoko Suzuki looking at you just now? I just saw that she looked at you. Xiaoai stared at Chen suspiciously, and a hint of doubt began to arise in her heart. Then you must be wrong. Xiaoai, your eyes are not good. Chen naturally won't admit anything to Xiaoai, and directly said that Xiaoai saw it wrong. But Xiaoai is 100% sure. He was absolutely right, but if Chen didn't admit it, Xiaoai had no choice but to force Chen to admit it. HMPH. Xiaoai snorted softly and decided to stare at the woman Tatsu and Tomoko Suzuki. She must be able to find some evidence. Don't hum. It's very bad, you know that. Chen squeezed Xiaoai's face and said. What does this have to do with you? Okay. It doesn't matter to me. Chen, did you and Xiao Zhang quarrel again? Mingmei looked at Chen and Xiaoai when she returned. Xiaoai took a dark look at Chen, and then ran to Mingmei's side, apparently ignoring him. Chen shrugged and said hello to Tomoko Suzuki, after which Tomoko Suzuki left, and she went to greet the others. This exhibition was organized by her, so she was naturally responsible for greetings, of course. Exhibition is not the purpose, the most important thing is business communication. This is equivalent to a business exchange meeting, and the people who come here are also very talented in business. Of course, there are also a number of people in the industry who have been invited over. A big consortium still has to make some connections when necessary. Even in other industries, the Suzuki consortium may not be able to get involved in the future, so there is no harm in getting to know them twice, but this is a bit boring for Qian Chen. The first dry chapter, 45 chapters. Conan saw it. Chen, look at that pink diamond. Yukiko suddenly pulled Chen, and then pointed to the pink diamond that was on display there. There were still many people watching. Not only was it relatively large, this diamond was on display. The shape is also very good, and it is pure natural. It has not been processed. It can only be regarded as ordinary. Chen glanced at it, and then said, I don't think this pink diamond is so good. In Chen's eyes, it's just an ordinary thing. Generally, do you know how much this pink diamond is worth? The fat man gave Chen a disdainful look, and then said, 3 inches. What kind of cat and dog will jump out to find a sense of existence? Chen glanced at the other party. Then he said indifferently, yeah, we didn't talk to you again. What are you talking about? Yukiko looked at the other party and said coldly, Wei, you, do you know? Who am I? The fat man looked at Chen and Yuki Ichiko angrily. Does it matter what kind of cat or dog you are? Very good. The fat man looked at Chen deeply, obviously remembering him, and he will definitely not give up after that. He came to visit Lee for a boring exhibition and even met a clown who jumped on the beam. Chen Xin felt very unhappy. This guy is finished. Yurin will never let this guy go easily. But don't do it at the exhibition. After all, it's the Sonoko's exhibition, so don't screw it up, etc. Let's talk about it after it's over. And that fat man was also afraid of the Suzuki consortium, so he didn't say anything, just turned and left. I think it's better to call Sonoko directly and drive this guy out. Yukiko said angrily. 3 inches okay, don't be angry, there's no need to be angry because of a jumping clown. Chen raised his hand and touched Yukiko's head, then said. Shun, don't touch me, I'm not a child. Yukiko opened Chen's ear in dissatisfaction. Although you said you're not a child, your personality is very much like a child, don't you think? Chen, are you praising me for being young? Yuchizi didn't get angry, but asked Chen with a smile. No, you misunderstood. I didn't praise you for being young, I was saying that after you finished talking, you turned around and left Yuchizi with a back view to make Yuchizi stare at Chen's back. He just said Shigong. Shui is actually saying that he is naive. Although Yukiko doesn't show anything on the surface, but Yukiko's heart is very angry, but she ignores Yukiko's anger and says, I am hungry, go find something to eat. Conan, what are you looking at? Hattori Heiji frowned and asked Conan about Conan and Hattori Heiji standing in a corner. Originally, they were still communicating, but suddenly Conan's expression became stiff. Hattori Heiji didn't know what was going on with Conan, so he asked Conan in confusion, what was the matter? He didn't answer Hattori Heiji's question to Conan, and it was in Conan's mind at this time. It's still from the picture he just saw. He actually saw his mother Yukiko, and Hyuga Chen, that bastard, was still touching his mother's head, this bastard. Although Conan really thinks that he is wrong, but the fact is that he is not wrong, that is the truth. 3. He looked very straight just now, but now Conan wants to dig out his eyes, and growls wildly in his heart, what the hell is going on? Conan, Hattori Heiji called out again, making Conan sober. I said what happened to you just now. Are you okay? Hattori looked at Conan worriedly. I'm fine. Conan finally shook his head and smiled reluctantly. Although Conan said it was fine, Hattori Heiji was so smart. Although his EQ was very low when he was himself, but when he looked at others, his IQ and EQ came up all of a sudden, and it was natural to see that Conan was not really alright. However, Hattori Heiji did not inquire, and it is estimated that even if he did, Conan might not say it. Still don't ask. Although Hattori Heiji, he likes to get to the bottom of some things, but he also knows the importance, and some things are better not to ask. Conan, Heiji, are you hungry? Come and have something to eat. The pastries here are very good. Agasa Hiroshi shouted to Conan and Heiji. Let's go, let's eat something. I didn't eat anything in the morning, and now I'm hungry too. Hattori Heiji said to Conan, go eat, I don't have an appetite. Conan shook his head, now he is not in the mood to eat asking for flowers, okay. Heiji didn't say anything, and walked towards Dr. Agasa. After seeing Hattori Heiji leave, Conan opened his head high, came to a place where no one was there, took out his mobile phone and dialed Yukiko's number. However, it took a long time to find out that he couldn't get through. He originally wanted to ask for a room, but now he can't even get through the phone. There is no way, because it is beneficial to not bring a mobile phone at all. If Conan can get through, then it is a ghost. Conan went back disappointed, very anxious in his heart, and he had an idea to rush up to ask now, but an idea is just an idea after all. If rushed over, that would definitely expose itself. Now his mother shouldn't know about him getting smaller. Hyuga Chen probably hasn't approached her yet, so Conan doesn't want to reveal anything. Conan, where have you been? You disappeared in a blink of an eye. Hattori Heiji pulled Conan over after seeing Conan. Originally, he thought that Conan would follow him, but he didn't expect to see Conan after turning around. What are you worrying about? I am not a child. Conan said speechlessly that he was not a real child. I don't know what Hattori Heiji was worried about, could he still be in danger? There are so many people here. Who knows if there are people in black organizations, so it's better to be careful. Hattori Heiji said cautiously. How is this possible? There are people in the black organization so likely here. Hattori, I think most of you are worried about the T-mouth. Conan shook his head and said it was impossible. It's impossible, even if there are people from the black organization appearing here. I won't find it strange. Don't forget the penetration ability of the black organization. Hattori Heiji said to Conan. No one knows how many members of the black organization. Perhaps an ordinary person who is ordinary on the surface is a member of the black organization. Of course, this possibility is relatively small, and the people in the black organization can never be ordinary people. But precisely because of that, this is just dangerous. Because of the people who came to participate in this exhibition, not a single person is a back-to-back person. Maybe there are members of the black organization among them. So the age cannot be careless. Chapter 1046. I don't believe you. Do you want to eat lobster? Chen asked Xiao Ai. You've already finished eating. Why are you still asking me what to do? Are you going to find the leftover shells? Xiao Ai glanced at Chen. You can still take it. Chen said, standing up and bringing the lobster to the table not far from Yin Yan. He placed it in front of Xiao Ai. 1 inch, you peel it off for me. Xiao Ai looked at Chen and said, what? You actually asked me to peel it off for you. It's a big face. But Chen still helped to peel it off for Xiao Ai, and put it in the small plate in front of Xiao Ai. Chen, you can peel it off for me too. Yuchizi said to Fang. Chen Wenyan glanced at Yuchizi, and then said, the county has hands and feet, so why should I ask others to help? Why are you peeling the lobster for Xiao Ai? Yuchizi said angrily. Xiao Ai is a child, are you also a child? Chen asked Yuchizi. You are the child. Xiao Ai glared at Chen angrily. Isn't what I said now true? If Xiao Ai grows up on your own, I really don't know how long it will take. Chen looked at Xiao Ai and said, you are taking a nap with me, thinking that I can't find an antidote. Xiao Ai is quite confident in herself. I believe that I can definitely find an antidote. In fact, Chen also believes that Xiao Ai can do it. But it will definitely not be now. At least it is impossible for Xiao Ai to develop an antidote now. What kind of antidote? Yuchizi looked at Chen and Xiao Ai strangely and asked. This is a secret matter, Yuchizi, don't ask about it, of course. Even if you ask, I won't tell you. Yukiko turned to Byakugan. What a secret matter. Peeling the lobster and eating the lobster by herself, something happened. Someone died. Suddenly, a loud shout made everyone look over. Just now I went to the deck to blow air. I found a person lying there. I went over to check and found that he was out of breath. A group of people went to the deck. Yukiko was also quite interested in their eyes, and asked Chen, who was next to him. Aren't you going to take a look? I saw Xiaolan and the others passed by. This is so beautiful, if you want to join in the fun, go for it. Chen is not a straight man anyway. Then let's go. Yukiko suddenly pulled Xiao Ai and walked towards the deck. Chen himself was the only one left in the entire exhibition hall. LO5G 5 inches, forget it. I'll go too, it's embarrassing to be here alone. Then went to the deck. 2582. There were already a group of people on the deck. Tatsu could see Hattori Heiji and Conan in the front, too. They would definitely rush to the front for such a thing. After Makan approached the bottom after seeing the deceased, I was stunned for a moment. Because this dead guy Chen knew. K was a fat man who had a conflict before, but I didn't expect him to die. Well, Chen, the dead person is actually him. Yukiko has apparently recognized it. You know the dead. Hattori Heiji suddenly picked up his head and looked at Tatsu and Yukiko with suspicion in his eyes. If it was Hyuga Tatsu, it might be quite suspicious. It was because he had something to do with him. Hattori Heiji was extremely suspicious. Hey, you don't suspect that we killed him? Yu Zikian frowned. It was too obvious. Or it was as if they were the ones who killed him. There are a lot of people who know this guy, right? Why do you have to look at me like this, as a detective? Are you still married? Mixed personal feelings. Because there are contradictions between us. So you suspect me? Chen looked at Hattori Heiji lightly. Hatobe Heiji, Chen and sister Yukiko have been in the exhibition hall all the time. There is absolutely no way they have anything to do with them. Don't be chaotic and doubt people. He said with a cold face. That's right, I shouldn't have asked you to come here. By the way, who invited you to come? People invited Hattori Heiji. Only the famous Akasa Hiroshi. Hattori Heiji, and Konan were invited. Hattori Heiji felt a little aggrieved in his heart, especially after Kazuya said the same thing. Hattori Heiji's I felt even more aggrieved. You have had conflicts before, I saw it. Konan opened his mouth and said. Konan's eyes looked at Yukiko. Although Yukiko is a motherfucker, if there is a mirror, he will not let him go with his character. That's how the character is. No matter who the criminal is. Who, Konan will find out and send them to prison. Everyone's moonlight is looking towards Chen and Yukiko, and Chen admits it indifferently. Yes, it was a conflict with him, but what does this mean? Chen faintly he looked at Konan and asked. Konan frowned. There is indeed no evidence, but Hyuga Chen is definitely a suspect. 3 inches before Chen Yuji stayed in the exhibition hall. Konan, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Ran said to Konan. Konan watched Xiao Lan open her mouth and felt a little depressed, which is probably similar to the mountain situation of Hattori Heiji next to him. If possible, Konan really thinks that this matter has something to do with Hyuga Chen. It's time to arrest this guy Hyuga Chen. Let's get to the shore now, and wait for the police to investigate. There's no need for detectives here. Tomoko Suzuki said indifferently. Then Tomoko Suzuki asked Hattori Heiji and Konan to be pulled aside to protect the scene. Hattori Heiji and Konan wanted to check the clues, but they were stopped by security guards. If you believe me, I can find the hand. Hattori Heiji said confidently. Tomoko Suzuki glanced at Hattori Heiji, and then said lightly, I don't believe you. Hattori Heiji's expression was stunned, and then he thought Tomoko Suzuki didn't know him. Immediately, he introduced himself. I'm calling Hattori Heiji to vomit blood. I know that your name is Hattori Heiji, but you don't call Hattori Heizang. Tomo Suzuki's words made Hattori Heiji's expression very stiff. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know how to get to know him in D3. If this kind of thing is not handled properly, it will have a bad impact on the Suzuki consortium. Sonoko said gloomily. Although Sonoko has never cared about the Suzuki consortium, Sonoko doesn't want any problems with the Suzuki consortium. It's mainly Hattori Heiji and Konan who are here. The 2 of them are 2 gods of death. So it's normal for this to happen. Let's take a look. Can be solved anyway. Chen said to Yuanzi. It's not a big deal. Chapter 47 of the First Thousand Fog. It didn't take long for the cruise ship to dock again. The tomb police officer who received the call was already waiting here. After the cruise ship has landed, immediately board the ship. Everyone, please do not leave for the time being. The National Tomb Police officer said to the people who came to participate in the exhibition. After inspection, there was a small pinhole on the neck of the deceased, and the deceased he also died of poisoning, so it was a homicide, not an accident. Because of this, the people on the boat couldn't leave. Because the murderer was definitely someone on the boat. This kind of secret must be solved immediately, otherwise, the case is not easy to solve. In fact, Officer Yimu said this. He also said it bravely, because the people on board are all elites from all walks of life, and Officer Yimu is also very embarrassed. But in order to solve the problem, then only if you can offend them, please stay here for the time being. The people on the boat frowned. But in the end, they didn't say anything, and they didn't make a fuss about leaving. Anyone who wants to leave at this time may be considered the murderer. Obviously no one wants to be regarded as a murderer, so they all stay here obediently. The name of the deceased is Taihei Tanaka, the president of the Taihei group. Takagi came to Officer Kimu's side, and said to Officer Yimu. Report the identity of the other party to Officer Yimu and let Officer Yimu know. 3. Officer Chuan might as well let me help you solve the case. Well, I really believe that the murderer can definitely be found. Hattori Heiji confidently said to Officer Tsukimu. And the tomb officer was slightly taken aback when he saw Hattori Heiji, but he didn't expect Hattori Heiji to be here. It turned out to be Hattori's brother Hibiki. I didn't expect to meet you here, but leave the case to us. There is no need for Hattori's brother to help. Officer Megumi said with a smile. Ding, Hattori is fair and fair. I thought Officer Megumi would agree to let him help when he saw his guest. Hattori's main drink is even ready. 3. But look at the tomb policeman now. He didn't mean to ask him to help solve the case at all, and even said that he didn't need to help. What the hell is going on? In fact, if it were another occasion, the tomb officer would definitely not mind Hattori Heiji's help. But in this situation, he still wants to solve the case himself. Everyone here is watching. If Hattori Heiji is asked to help, what will these elites in society think of them? Will they think they are too bad? With this level of consideration, also, Hattori Heiji can't be asked to help. This is for the sake of face. 9. Juan immediately followed the tomb and began to ask, and it was Mawako who came to ask Chen. Because Chen and the deceased conflicted naturally, he will also be listed as a suspect. Chen, do you know who the murderer is? Mawako took Chen aside and asked Chen secretly. I don't know. Always shaking his head. It's not that he doesn't want to help Mawako, but he really doesn't know who the murderer is. That's really troublesome. Mawako rubbed her head, feeling a little troublesome. But I think the murderer is quite stupid. Even after killing someone, he still left his body there. Isn't it the safest to throw it into the sea? Chen couldn't help but say 2K, that's right. There should also be cameras on the deck, you can investigate through this. Chen reminded Mawako. That's right. I'll go investigate. Mawako nodded and went to investigate. As for whether Mawako can investigate anything, Chen doesn't know. Pinjong Shinshin feels that if the murderer really kills, he will definitely try to destroy the camera, but this will also I left some clues. But soon I felt as if I had been beaten in the face, because the image head was not damaged, of course. The murderer was filmed and the murderer was the vice president of Taihei Group. Heiji Hattori and Conan, who learned that they had solved the case, widened their eyes and found the murderer so easily. This is the first time I have encountered such a case that no reasoning is required. The murderer who was caught was very calm, and there was no expression on his face, as if the person who was caught was not him. Or maybe he was ready to be caught. Therefore, no evidence was destroyed, and even fingerprints were left. 3. After the interrogation, the police also knew that the killing of the Daishin Center was originally planned. He had prepared the poison needle before he came, but after arriving on the cruise ship, he suddenly regretted it. Just because of the conflict, he moved. There is no plan at all. It's just that they clashed again on the boat, and the murderer killed him in anger. He also knew that he couldn't run away, and he was already mentally prepared to be caught. After that, everything was over, and Officer Twilight left with the prisoner. But Mawako chose to stay here. Officer Wu Jie didn't say anything about it. Now that Mawako has become the police department, she is on the same level as the police officer Kimu, and now the police officer Kimu is not qualified to teach anything. The treasured guests also left one after another. When such a thing happened, they were not interested in staying on this cruise ship, because they had died here. Some people are very taboo about this, for fear of getting bad luck, so they don't plan to stay here. Suddenly such a thing happened. I'm really sorry. The child couldn't help but said that Suzuki Tomoko wanted to get together with Chenju, but now there is no time. Because Suzuki Tomoko has to deal with the impact of the follow-up. 293 inches Sonoko, will this have any effect on your Suzumoto consortium? Shaolin asked forcefully towards Sonoko. It won't matter. Sonoko smiled and shook his head. 3. Okay. Sonoko himself doesn't know whether it will have any bad influence, but Sonoko believes that his mother can absolutely give everything to Gai Riko. It's fine if it doesn't affect anything. Wu Zunshin followed Yuani to her house. Sonoko invited Chen and the others to play at her house. Chen did not refuse. If Chen passes by, then Xiao Ai, Ming Cha and Yushizi will definitely go, and Xiaolan and Heyi will definitely go too. Then there are Shizi and Shaolin, who also pulled Feiyingli together. Feiying thought about it and did not refuse. Yuanzi, your family is really big. Heyi was still. The first, Chung Yuanzi's house, I was surprised at once. Big 0 inches. It's useless at home, it's too empty, and there's no one in the house. Yuanzi said a little depressedly, by the way, what do you want to drink? Yuanzi asked Chen and the others. I'm not picky, I can do anything except coffee. Chen said to Yuanzi. Chen, I remember you still have a coffee shop, why don't you like drinking coffee? Xiaolin asked curiously. I'm not used to the taste. Chen said to Xiaolin. 1. Chapter 1048. Yuqizi's driving skills didn't stay at Yuanzi's house for a long time. It was getting dark, and Chen and the others had to leave. 3 inches Xiaolan, do you need me to take you back? Chen asked towards the elementary school. Hey, Chen, didn't you see me? Just ask Bulin. He glared at Chen dissatisfiedly and said, I'm sorry, I accidentally ignored you just now. Chen smiled slightly said, please don't say it. This will make me want to hit people. He was expressionless. Holding his fist, he almost couldn't help but punch Chen in the face. Xiaolan, you still have to stay at my house with Yi, play with me. Yuanzi pulled Xiaolan and He said. Looking forward to the moonlight looking at Xiaolin. Yuanzi is really bored at home, so she wants Xiaolin and Hai to stay here with her. He, how is it? Do you agree? Sonoko turned his head and looked at He. I don't have any opinion. You can ask Xiaolin. If Xiaolin stays here, then I'll stay here too. He expressed no opinion. Immediately, Sonoko's eyes were fixed on Xiaolin. But I'm still planning to go back to do my homework. Xiaolin frowned, and the assigned homework was not completed. 3 inches it's okay tomorrow, just stay here today. Yuanzi held Xiaolin, not letting Xiaolin open. That's fine. But Yuanzi, can you let me go now? I won't run away. Xiaolin looked at Yuanzi with a bit of detachment and said. Yuanzi then let go of Xiaolin. Then Qieguang looked at Chen and the others, obviously wanting to invite Chen and the others to live here as well. However, Chen directly shook his head and refused. So Yuanzi's soil share was disappointed. Since Xiaolin, you want to stay at Yuanzi's house, then mother, I'll leave. Fei Yingli said to Xiaolin. Ding originally wanted to send Xiaolan back to Fu Yingli, but since elementary school, she wanted to stay at Yin Yin's house. That concubine Yingli also did not say anything. 9 Staying at Yuanzi's house, Fei Yingli was still very relieved. Yukiko, do you want to follow me to my place? Fei Yingli suddenly asked Yukiko. Haha, do you want me to help you with work again? There is no door, Yukiko said coldly. When her husband and concubine Yingli was at home before, she was tricked by her. I used to be a conductor once, of course Yukiko won't do it again. It was the second time, how could concubine Yingri invite her in the future? She definitely won't go, and she won't even pay attention to the work. No, I'm going to take a break for a while, and I don't have a job for the time being. Fei Yingli said to Yukiko. Yukiko chuckled, not believing Fei Yingli at all. I feel that Fei Yingli must be tricking her. Her smart Yukiko will never be deceived. It doesn't matter if you don't come, you won't be welcome in the future. After Fei Yingli finished speaking, she directly got into her own car a 3 inches cut. You don't welcome me, I still don't want to go. Jikiko cut softly. After being asked by Fei Yingli to help last time, Yukiko really didn't want to go. Chen, goodbye to work. Fei Yingli waved to Chen, and then the car left. Let's go too, Chen said and opened the driver's door, but Yukiko pulled it open. Why? Chen Yugong looked at Yuqizi with doubts in his eyes. It's been a long time since I drove, let me drive. Yukiko said expectantly. 3 inches Aunt Yukiko, do you really know how to drive? Xiaolin blurted out. Yuqizi's face darkened. Xiaolin actually called her Aunt Yuqizi again, which made Yuqizi couldn't help but glance at Xiaolin. Being stared at by the dangerous moonlight of Yuqizi, Xiaolin suddenly came back to her senses, remembering that Yuqizi hated being called her aunt the most. That sister Yuqizi, do you really know how to drive? Xiaolin immediately changed her words. Asked again. Yuqizi's expression improved a little, then she took out her driver's license from the bag she was carrying, and said to Xiaolin, seeing that there is no Xiaolin, this is my driver's license, and I am a car god. After seeing Yuqizi's driver's license, Xiaolin was relieved. This way, you don't have to worry about Xiaochen's safety. Do you really want to drive? I think Mingmei is more dependent on driving than you. Chen looked at Yukiko suspiciously. What do you mean? It seems that I won't show you my driving skills. You won't believe me anymore. Just let you see how awesome I am. Yuchizi said to Chen with a face of dissatisfaction. Chen's eyes looked at Yuchizi, but he wanted to see what was so powerful about Yuchizi. Okay, then you can drive. I hope nothing happens, I feel a little bad in my heart. Why Popo, I have gotten Shizi here, how could something happen, even if something happened, that's what your crow's mouth said. Yukiko stared at Chen in dissatisfaction. Haha, my crow's mouth. Yuchizi got into the car, then started the car skillfully. The car slowly left. Sonoko, Shaolin, Hee and the others watched, and finally Sonoko couldn't help asking, do you think they are going at this speed? Can they go home tomorrow? I think it's a bit boring. It's too slow. Are you afraid of hitting cats and dogs? Hee looked at the turtle-moving car. And Chen, Mingmei, and Xiaoai who were sitting in the car looked at Yukiko speechlessly. Yuchizi, can we hurry up? I'm thinking about such a speed, it will be very good to get home next year. Chen Yi said sloppily, what are you doing so fast? Look at how stable I drive, don't you praise me? Yuchizi said with a blank look. Chen's eyes looked out the window, and saw a person riding a bicycle, successfully surpassing them. Chen couldn't help covering his face, it was really shameless to look at it. I think even if I'm walking, I can drive faster than you. Qian Hao, Gong Xiao I couldn't help but said to Yuchizi. Don't bother me, I just haven't driven for a long time, let's get used to it first, and wait until I get used to it. After that, I will let you know how good my driving skills are. Sit still, I'm going to show you equals, I've got real technology. Shifting gears and stepping on the accelerator, the car rushed out instantly, and there was no nervousness in Yukiko's eyes. I said you were playing with us just now. Chen looked at Yuchizi, and thought Yuchizi's driving skills were sloppy. I imagined that it was not bad. Now is the rush hour, and Yuchizi is driving on the road and overtaking like a cloud of water, which is completely different from the old lady who was driving before. I don't know. If you don't show you my skills, you won't know that I have Kiko's power. How do you feel now? I'll tell you. I am great, Yukiko said proudly. Chapter 49 of the First Thousand Fog. Hard to say, you guys are back. Little Izumi Yuhiko heard the door open and came out and said, then came directly to Mingmei's side, pulled Mingmei's hand and quickly said, Mingmei, can you help me with something to eat? Ah, I'm about to starve to death. Yuhizi, haven't you eaten yet? Mingmei was startled, and then asked Yuhiko. After you left, there was no one to cook, so I didn't eat at noon, and now I'm hungry until night. Little Izumi Yuhiko said to Mingmei. Chen Wenyan looked at the little Izumi Yuhiko and Belmod on the side with a speechless expression. Can't you guys order takeout? It's not delicious, I'm too lazy to order. Yuhiko shook his head. I think laziness is the most important thing, otherwise I won't be hungry. Chen looked at Belmod and said when he saw Izumi Yuhiko. Let you lose together and you won't. You are starving here now. Chen said with a slight smile. Don't say we're lazy, didn't we learn from you? Belmod glanced at Chen indifferently. Oh, so you mean I'm lazy? Chen asked, staring at Belmod 750 with dangerous eyes. Isn't it? Little Izumi Yuhiko was not afraid of Chen at all. Anyway, in the eyes of little Izumi Yuhiko, she was quite lazy, similar to her, not more lazy than the ground. Zero after all, when she is free, she will study magic. And the reward is to be a widow at home all the time. Little Izumi Yuhiko, you are very courageous. Aren't you afraid that I will teach you a lesson? Chen asked, looking at little Izumi Yuhiko. Then give it a try. Little Izumi Yuhiko glanced at Chen provocatively, showing that she was not afraid of Chen at all. Just try it, Chen said and grabbed the little Izumi Yuhiko, and then left with the little Izumi Yuhiko. Ding and the others were all looking at the fun, and even if the little Izumi Nianzi asked them for help, it did not cause them any fluctuations. I'm going to prepare the evening governor first, Mingmei said and walked into the kitchen, but just as she entered, Mingmei came out again. There are no more ingredients, who are you going to prepare the ingredients? Mingmei just looked at a few people. I'm so tired, I don't want to move. Yukiko sat on the sofa with a reluctant expression on her face. Apparently it was impossible to let Yukiko go. In the end, Kuroba Chikage bought the ingredients. When he left, he dragged the reluctant Yukiko, who forcibly took Yukiko to the kitchen, and scolded Kuroba Chikage for her actions. It doesn't seem like there is any way. After Cheng waited for them to buy the food forest and came back, he saw Chen and the little Izumi Yuhiko sitting on the side. Yuiko walked over curiously and asked Xiao Izumi Yuhiko, "How are you? Are you okay?" Osa Xiao Izumi Yuhiko glanced at Kuroba Chikage, and then said lightly, "It's okay, what can I do?" 0773. Little Izumi Yuhiko said very indifferently that she was fine, but whether it was really fine or fake, this is only the little Izumi Yuhiko who knew Akatsuki from 2. By the way, you don't have your phone, right? I won't call you. Belmod asked Yoranzi, "Who is it?" Yukiko asked Belmod strangely, "How do I know this? All I know is that your phone is ringing." "How do you know? Who is calling you?" "I didn't look at it." Belmod turned the Byakugan to Yukiko. "Then I'll go check." Yukiko thought that her phone seemed to be charging, because of the charging reason, so when I removed it, I didn't bring my cell phone. I came to the room. After I turned on the cell phone, Yukiko did find a number of missed calls, and they were all by myself. Her cheap son, Fudo Shinichi. "Boy, why did you contact me? Could it be that you were in trouble?" Yukiko frowned and called back. Conan, who was at Dr. Ali's house at this time, heard the ringing of his cell phone, immediately stood up, and said, "Dr. CHDD, I'm going to pick up a call _____." Conan held the phone high, making Akasa Hiroto and Hattori Heiji feel a little strange. "Since I came back from the exhibition, I feel there's something wrong with Conan," Hattori Heiji said involuntarily. 3. Brown, how she, did you find anything? Hattori Heiji asked Akasa Hiroshi. "There is indeed a discovery. There is indeed something wrong with Conan and I don't know why. There is some worry in Dr. Ali's eyes, and some worry about Conan's situation. Conan is obviously hiding something from them. As long as Conan hides it from them, it will definitely be a big deal, of course." 3. Conan deliberately opened the room high and took out the voice changer. He adjusted the voice changer to the voice of Kudo Shinichi, and then the call was connected. "Hey, Mom, why didn't you answer the phone before?" Conan first asked Uchizi asked. He called Uchizi more than one phone call, but Uchizi did not answer. "Imperial boy, did you call me mother just now? Do you think I'm old?" Uchizi asked Conan angrily. Cold sweat broke out on Conan's forehead. But thinking that Yoshiko is not here now, Conan relaxes. Besides, the blood envoy is here. It is impossible to know him. After all, he has become smaller now. Even when he was young, similarities, but no one will think of these. After all, no one thinks that people will become smaller. This is no longer science fiction, this is simply a myth. Conan will never believe it will appear before it becomes smaller. No, I don't mean anything else. Conan still explained it. Otherwise when will he change back? If he sees Yukiko again, I don't know if he will be cleaned up. HMPH, after I see you, I'll clean you up again. Tell me what you're doing on the phone with me. Yukiko snorted coldly, and then asked Conan to hear the words. That is why he called Yukiko, but just after thinking of this purpose, Conan's expression was a little stiff. How should I ask this? Can you tell me directly? I see that you and Hyuga-chen are very close. Is there any problem between the two of you? This Conan is really embarrassed to say it, but if you don't say it, Conan's words will be different. It was very painful to hold back in my heart. Well, Mom, where are you now? Conan asked Yuxalai. In fact, Conan knew that there was a good day at Chen-chen's home, so Conan became more and more suspicious that his guess was right. But it's hard to say. I'm at a friend's house right now. If you have anything to do, just talk to me. Don't talk about it. If you don't talk about it, I'll hang up. Patience, Conan equals scratching his hair with a sad face, before he made up his mind whether to ask or not. It's really confusing. Chapter 1050. Conan, who fell into autism, hesitated. He was too embarrassed to come out, and after a while he found out that Yukiko actually hung up. I actually hung up. Conan smiled bitterly. After thinking about it, he called back again. On the other side, Yukiko, who threw her phone aside, heard the phone ring again, so she picked it up. Actually called back again. Yukiko pouted, but she had already expected that she would call back in due course. Hurry up and say something now, otherwise, I won't give you the next chance to speak. After Yukiko connected, said directly, don't hang up now, I have something very important to ask you. Conan said hurriedly, let's ask, but whether I will answer you or not depends on my mood. I tell you, my mood is not very good. Yukiko said rather unhappily. She had been back for so long, but she was in a bad mood. I didn't even see the shadow of Shin, and I was naturally a little annoyed in my heart. If Kudo Shinichi dares to appear in front of Yukiko now, Yukiko will definitely give him a punch and let him know equals. It's amazing. Fortunately, Kudo Shinichi didn't know what Yukiko was thinking, otherwise he wouldn't have dared to show his face. But with his smaller appearance now, he definitely wouldn't dare to show his face. Well, I saw you today on the exhibition cruise ship. Conan bit the bullet and said. What? You didn't come out to say hello when you saw me. Also, why didn't I see you? Yukiko, who was already upset, was even more upset now. I really want to slap this villain to death. This is not important. The important thing is that I saw that you and Hyuga-chen are very close, and there will be no relationship between the two of you. Conan is really biting his head. In fact, he is really hard to ask. Conan's heart would be very uncomfortable if he didn't ask. Yukiko was silent for a while, and didn't say anything to deny it, which made Conan's heart throb, feeling a little bad. It's not good, it feels even worse now, can't it be true? Conan bit Kiba and cursed Hyuga-chen in his heart. Conan thinks that he has Kiko now, he must be confused by the bastard Hyuga-chen, that's why he will like this. At this time, Conan can't wait to pick up the kitchen knife and go to Hyuga-chen desperately, but this is just thinking about it, really desperately will definitely not be able to fight. Okay, just hang up. Yukiko hung up the phone directly. Conan listened to the busy tone of the phone. He threw the phone on the ground angrily. His mother never gave him an answer, even if it was an answer that deceived him. Conan now it won't feel so uncomfortable. But now Arikiko's silence has explained everything. Damn Hyuga-chen. Conan roared too much. Conan's voice made Akasa Hiroto and Hattori Heiji come out of the room and looked at Conan with Yuhi's eyes and couldn't help but glance at each other. What's going on? Conan, how's it going? Ali Botu walked over and asked Conan. Conan glanced at Ali Botu, but didn't say anything. Naturally, you can't tell others about this kind of thing. As the saying goes, a family scandal can't be made public, and this Conan still understands it. If you don't say anything else, just saying that shame is not something ordinary people can bear. I'm fine. After Conan finished speaking, he went back to the room and locked himself in the room. At this time, Conan fell into autism. Look at Conan like this. If he is really fine, I am afraid no one will believe it. But now both Dr. Akasa and Hattori Heiji are embarrassed to ask the reason. How about you go ask? Hearing this, he was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head. Now he is too embarrassed to ask Conan why he is depressed. It can be seen that Conan seems to have really given birth. I heard him calling Hyuga-chan's name just now, so he must have separated from Hyuga-chan. It doesn't matter. Could it be that Ran and Hyuga-chen have established a relationship? Hattori Heiji doubted. Akasa Hiroshi immediately covered Hattori Heiji's mouth. Heiji, you must not let Conan hear this, or else if so, Conan will probably fight with you. Dr. Kasa said to Hattori Heiji, if Conan really heard about it, no matter how good-tempered Conan was, he would definitely not be able to resist coming to Heiji desperately. Asking for flowers. Not to mention Conan now it's not very good. So Dr. Akasa told Hattori Heiji to stop talking nonsense. Conan entered the room. I shouldn't hear it, I won't say it. Hattori Heiji said immediately. In addition, Benchan's house, Yukiko put it aside after hanging up the phone. Although it was discovered by Shinichi, Yukiko didn't have much worries. Yukiko, it's time to eat. Kuroha Chien shouted under the influence of Yukiko. Here it is. Wait for me, don't eat in advance, remember to leave it for me. Yukiko immediately shouted, that's not necessarily true. Maybe if you meet in the evening, your favorite dishes will be gone. Kuroba Chikage said with a smile outside. Yukiko immediately opened the door and walked out, but found that Akemi hadn't cooked yet, so she couldn't help turning a Byakugan towards Kuroba Chikage. Okay Chikage, you actually cheated on me, obviously not yet. What are you doing in such a hurry to call me out when the meal is ready? I'm afraid that you will be forgotten by us when you are in the room. When we finish eating, you should be hungry, right? Who called you just now? Kuroba Chikage asked Yuki. Why are you asking this? When did you become so 8 trigrams? Is it? Yukiko looked at Kuroba Chikage with a curious look, and couldn't help but said angrily. Is it okay to ask? Heiyu Chenying pouted. Okay, I'll tell you. My son Kudo Shinji should know about the relationship between me and Tatsuya. Yukiko said to Kuroha Chikage. Kuroha Chikage looked at Yukiko after hearing the words. She kept looking at Yukiko up and down. What are you looking at? Is there something wrong with me? Yukiko asked Haya Chikage suspiciously, and by the way I took out the mirror and took a look at it, is there something wrong with her? No, why are you so calm now, your son already knows. Don't you feel panic in your heart? Kuroba Chikage asked Yukiko involuntarily. She really didn't understand why Yukiko can still negotiate like this now. Why should I panic? I think you are strange. Yukiko glanced at Chikage Kuroha, then crossed Chikage Kuroha and walked towards the living room for a long time. Chapter 1051. You want to call him dad, right? What are you thinking? After eating, Chen looked at Kuroha Chikage who was in deep thought, and couldn't help but tap her hand at Chikage. Kuroba Chikage looked up at Chen. Then he said softly, I'm thinking about Yukiko. Yukiko, what's wrong with her? Chen asked Kuroba Chikage suspiciously. Kiko told me before that her son Kudo Shinichi seems to have discovered the relationship between you and her. Kuroba Chikage's expression became a little weird. Chen was stunned for a moment, and then thought that when he went to the cruise ship to participate in the exhibition, Conan also went there. Maybe Conan saw that he and Yukiko were closer. And then, Chen continued to ask Heiyu Chenying. And then Yukiko is so calm, it's really strange. Kuroba Chian, 680, said involuntarily. I don't think there's anything strange about this, Chen said, standing up. You don't even think it's strange? This is obviously very strange, okay. Kuroba Chikage said a little depressed. What's so strange about that? It was discovered by his own son. At the very least, he would appear to be a little flustered, but it was absolutely impossible to be so calm. Kuroba Chikage said involuntarily. You are speaking according to yourself, Yukiko is not you. By the way, have you ever thought about what would happen if we were discovered by Kuroba Kato? Chen suddenly smiled at Heiyu Chenying asked. Heiyu Chenying heard the words. Her face was a little uncomfortable, and then she hummed to Chen and said, I will never be discovered. What if it is an emergency? Chen asked Heiyu Chenying. What is the emergency? There will never be any emergency. Heiyu Chenying said very confidently, there is absolutely no case. That's not certain, Chen said and left immediately. There is no wall that cannot see through the wind, and Kuroba Chenying didn't hide it too secretly. But recently, there has been no movement in Kuroba Kuido. Shouldn't you be blaming kid? Chen Yi ignored this, went directly to the door of Yuchizi's room, pushed open the door and walked in, while Yuchizi was playing with his mobile phone in the room at this time. After seeing Chen coming in, he glanced at Chen, and then withdrew his mouth. Asked, why did you come to my room? Can't I come? And it's your room. But this is my home. Chen said to Yuchizi, if you have anything to do with me, please tell me quickly, you will waste my time. Yukiko, who was playing games, couldn't help but said to Chen. When did you become obsessed with playing games? Chen asked Yukiko. Recently, it's fun, and I just play games to pass the time when I'm bored. Talking, that's why I play games. My heart is really sad. Chen covered his heart, said sadly. Okay, if you have anything to say, hurry up and say it. Chen put away his heartache and said to Yukiko, I heard Kuroba Chikage say just now that Dingtang Shinichi already knows about our relationship. Well, I didn't expect Kuroha Chikage to speak so quickly. Yukiko nodded, and then said, Aren't you here to ask me why I acted like this? Yukiko looked at Chen and asked. Of course not, after all, it's Yukiko, and it's normal to behave in a negotiated manner. Chen said to Yukiko with a smile. Are you complimenting me? Yukiko looked at Chen in amazement, feeling that Chen had changed and was ripped off by someone. Why, can't it work? Of course not, I'm just surprised. Yukiko leaned on Chen's side and said to Chen. Aren't you afraid of Kudo Shinichi telling Kudo Yasaka? Chen asked Yukiko. Of course not, just tell me if you tell me, I don't care. Yukiko said to Chen with a laugh. There is no relationship between her and Kudo Yasaka. It is estimated that even if Kudo Yasaka knows, there will be no reaction from his wife. By the way, do you know where that kid Shinichi is? If I find him, I will definitely fix him. Yukiko said with her fist raised. I don't know about this. Chen didn't tell Yukiko that Kudo Shin equals became smaller and turned into Konan. Chen rested in Yukiko's room tonight, and it was finally time for school on Monday. Since there was nothing to do at home, Chen was naturally ready to go to school and just walked out. Chen saw that Konan was staring at him with a murderer not far away. Yo, isn't this Konan-kun? You look like you're waiting for me on purpose. It's really an honor, Chen Tan said with a light smile. Hyuga-chan, come with me, come down, I have something to tell you. Konan glanced at Xiao Ai and Xiao Izumi Yuhiko, obviously not planning to say anything at this time, and Konan was embarrassed to confront him when there were outsiders. Between Hyuga-chan, Konan walked towards a deserted alley next to him. When he entered the alley, he turned his head and glanced at Chen. He was afraid that Chen would not follow. But Chen really came with Konan, and asked Xiao Izumi Yuhiko to send Xiao Ai to school first, although Xiao Ai said that he didn't need to send it. However, the little Izumi Yuhiko kept up with Xiao Ai. The second mate took Xiao Ai as an upright child. Let Xiao Ai's heart be secretly angry. Coming to the alley, Konan looked at Chen with Yuhi's eyes. I know why you came to me. Chen Wei smiled and said to Konan. Konan's expression became even colder when he heard the words. I can't wait to rush up and beat Hyuga-chen right now. You want to be called dad, right? Chen's words completely ignited Konan's anger. Konan was swept away by anger, and his sanity was burned. Equals slap your own belt, equals a football pops out instantly to complete the inflation, then adjust the foot strength enhancement shoes, adjust to the maximum degree, and then kick out after 4.2. In an instant, the football smashed towards Chen. The flying football could tear the air apart. Even if an adult were hit, it would never be better. But Chen just turned slightly sideways, then avoided the football and looked at Konan lightly. This kind of trick doesn't have any effect on me. At most, it's just to deal with people from the past. Chen said lightly. Konan's small tactics are useless even against Jin, let alone against Hyuga-chen. In fact, Konan also knew this. After all, he had used Chen several times and knew that it had no effect, but the angry Konan couldn't help but take action. Hyuga-chen, this guy is too deceiving. Konan really couldn't stand it anymore. If Chen can be killed, Konan may really kill him, but unfortunately Konan will never be able to. Chapter 1052. It seems that Xiao Ai doesn't like seeing you very much. Shinichi Kudo, I don't have much time to waste with you. Chen said to Konan. By the way, Yuchizi also asked me where are you before. Chen suddenly thought of yesterday. Yukiko also asked if she knew the whereabouts of Kudo Shinichi. He immediately said to Konan. Konan's heart tightened when he heard the words, and Guang stared at Chen tightly. He didn't know if Hyuga-chen had told him that he was now a primary school student. But Konan was worried. Even now, Konan is also worried that he will be exposed as a primary school student. You are very nervous and I didn't tell her, right? Chen looked at Konan with a slight smile, and then asked Konan. Konan just stared at Chen without speaking. Indeed, Konan is very concerned about this. Don't worry, I didn't tell Yuchizi. Chen said. Konan breathed a sigh of relief, and he believed Chen's words in his heart, because if Chen really told Yukiko that he had turned into an elementary school student, Yukiko would definitely call to inquire. Now Uchizi didn't call, which means that Uchizi doesn't know now. He just didn't respond because he was too nervous just now. Glancing at Conan lightly, Chen turned and walked away. Wait! Conan shouted to Chen too loudly when Chen was about to walk out of the alley. You'd better stay away from my mother and Shaolin, but otherwise, what can you do to me? You can only threaten verbally, but in fact you can't do anything. Chen glanced at me. Conan glanced at him and said indifferently, Hyuga-chan, don't look at me. Conan roared angrily. In Conan's heart, L's worst enemy has become Hyuga-chan, and even the black-clothed organization that poured poison on him would have to rank back in his heart. Then tell me, how can I give you a high look? Chen turned his head and glanced at Conan, then asked Conan. Conan did not speak, biting Kiba and staring at Chen. Shinichi Kudo, in fact, if you don't come to provoke me, I won't pay attention to you, so I advise you not to provoke me in the future. This is also a piece of advice I give you. Chen looked at Kudo Shinichi, faintly say first. Hee, you provoke me first. Conan hee sneered and looked at Chen angrily and said. Is that so? Chen scratched his hair as if it was exactly what Conan said, but so what? Chen turned his head and opened high. Conan could only watch Hyuga Chen's back open high and did not attack again impulsively. Before, it was because of the loss of reason, and now the reason has come back. If his attack could have an effect on Hyuga Chen, Conan wouldn't mind doing it, but his attack could not have the slightest effect on Hyuga Chen. Damn Hyuga Chen! Conan angrily punched the wall next to him. The fist was twisted and blood flowed out, but Conan ignored it. Should I tell Dad about this? Conan crouched down, his expression a little painful. He didn't know whether to say it or not. If I don't say it, I feel sorry for my father, but if I say it, I'm afraid there will be no room for recovery. Conan's heart hates immensely. It's all Hyuga Chen. If he doesn't show up, maybe equals nothing will happen. I remember that it seemed that after Hyuga-chan appeared, he was drugged by the people in the black organization. Maybe if the guy Hyuga-chan didn't show up, he wouldn't be like this. Well, this is what Conan thought in his heart. He blamed all his unfortunate encounters on Hyuga Chen. If Hyuga Chen knew what Conan was thinking, I'm afraid I can't help but slap him to death. Even if he didn't show up, Kudo Shinichi would still be drugged and turned into a primary school student. The reason why he has the current end. It has a lot to do with his curiosity. Curiosity can kill a cat. A cat can kill 9 lives, let alone a person. After Chen left, he came to the school by himself. After Chen arrived at the school, the little Izumi Yuhiko had already come to the school. Did you send Xiao-ai to school? Chen asked Xiao Izumi Yuhiko. No, little Izumi Yuhiko shook her head, and then said a little angrily, she drove me away halfway. She kindly sent you to school, but you drove me away halfway. Little Izumi Yuhiko later I will never send Xiao-ai to school again. Tisk tisk. It seems that Xiao-ai doesn't want to see you very much. Chen smiled and looked at Xiao Izumi Yuhiko. I don't want to see her yet. Xiao Izumi Yuhiko snorted and said. Obviously, because of the small sorrow, the little Izumi Yuhiko's heart was very annoyed and angry. By the way, what did you talk about with Kudo Shinichi? Little Izumi Yuhiko asked Chen. Kudo Shinichi. Chen, did you see Kudo Shinichi? Sonoko suddenly came over and asked Chen. Sonoko, your ears are very good. Little Izumi Yuhiko couldn't help but said. She didn't use a loud voice, and she deliberately lowered her voice. In the end, it was still heard by Sonoko, which shows that Sonoko's ears are really sensitive. Thank you for the compliment. Sonoko said to little Izumi Yuhiko with a smile. Sonoko, I don't think Yuhiko was complimenting you just now, and it's not right to eavesdrop on other people's words. Chen said to Sonoko, it's not that I deliberately eavesdropped, it's that your voices are a bit loud, my ears are better, so I heard it. Sonoko said, is that so? Then since Shaolin and Hai are like this, have you too heard it? Chen turned to Shaolin and Hai Jansho. Shaolin and Yi shook their heads. They really didn't hear what Chen and Yuhizi said just now. They only heard it after Yuanzi called out. Chen, have you really met Kudo Shinichi? Shaolin looked at Chen in surprise and asked. I don't know how long I haven't appeared, but I was actually met by Chen. Hattori Heiji, whose seat was not far from Chen, immediately leaned over and deliberately eavesdropped. Hyuga Chen meets Kudo Shin. It's completely bullshit, it's almost the same as meeting Conan. Thinking of Conan's mysterious appearance today, he should be looking for Hyuga Chen. Thinking of this, Hattori Heiji was a little worried. Worried about what Hyuga Chen did to Conan. So don't even listen to what's behind. Get up and walk out of the classroom. Chen also noticed Hattori Heiji's departure, but Chen didn't care about Hattori's movements. Well, I did meet Kudo Shinichi, we chatted a little bit, he seems to be dealing with a big case. Chen nodded towards Shaolin and said. That's it. Shaolin nodded. She didn't ask any more questions. Now she and Kudo Shin are just childhood sweethearts. Chapter 1053. Kohu was beaten. Kudo, where are you? Hattori Heiji took out his mobile phone immediately after opening the classroom. Come and call Conan. Heiji Hattori was worried because he knew that Chen and Conan had met, although in normal times, there would be differences between them because of some things. There will also be some contradictions. But Heiji Hattori is very concerned about Conan's situation, they are good friends. Hatrobe, what are you looking for from me? Conan was silently walking towards the school. I heard that Hyuga Chen was looking for you, are you okay? It wasn't him who was looking for me, but I was looking for him, Conan said calmly. Why are you looking for him? Hattori Heiji asked Conan unexpectedly. It involves some things, I'm inconvenient to tell you. Conan didn't plan to tell Hattori Heiji why he went to Hyuga Chen. If he wanted to let Hattori Heiji know, Conan wouldn't go to Hyuga Chen alone. No, is there anything that I can't even tell you? Hattori Heiji was a little angry, is there anything he has to hide from him? Conan fell silent after hearing the words, some things are really inconvenient for Hattori Heiji to say, this is also true, nothing can be done. This involves my personal affairs, so I'm sorry. Conan said to Hattori Heiji. Hearing that Conan said that it was a private matter, and finally Hattori Heiji was out of business, if he could tell him. It is estimated that Conan has already told him. Why not say it now? There must be something that cannot be said. Hattori Heiji calmed down a little bit of anger and calmed down. Okay, I won't ask anything, but if there is really something important. Note, you must tell me. Hattori Heiji said to Conan seriously. Well, if there is really something important, I will choose to tell you. Conan nodded and said. Conan then hung up the phone. He has to get to school quickly, otherwise he will be late, and if he is late, he will be punished. But he was an upright high school student, and naturally he didn't want to be punished. That would be too embarrassing. When he looked up, he saw the head teacher in the class, standing in front of him at this time. Hatobe classmates, although it's not forbidden to carry mobile phones, please don't use them in such an open and honest way. Hattori Heiji looked embarrassed, immediately put away the phone, bowed his head to admit his mistake to the teacher, and avoided being preached again. After that, Hattori Heiji quickly returned to the rank and file. After returning, Hattori Heiji glanced at Hyuga Chen. Conan didn't tell him why. Hattori Heiji was embarrassed to ask. But this does not mean that Hattori Heiji is not curious in his heart. Hyuga Chen definitely knew, but Hattori Heiji didn't want to ask. Even if he was very curious, Hattori Heiji didn't want to just look at him in the past. He looked straight at Chen, although he felt that he was hiding it very secretly. But this is completely hidden from Chen being stared at all the time, and Chen is a little annoyed. What are you looking at? Chen turned his head and asked Heiji Hattori, who was behind Chen's left. You are a big man staring at lousy, is this something? The problem, Chen felt that Hattori Heiji followed Kudo Shin. Has become a gay. Hattori Heiji was a little embarrassed. After being discovered, the price was embarrassing, but he still said stubbornly, I didn't look at you. Ha ha. Chen sneered and said again. Chen decided to gouge out this guy's eyes. Deaton Elementary School. Although Conan came to the school, but still late. Although not punished, still, he taught Conan a lesson. Conan was embarrassed standing on the podium. When the teacher told him to go back, it felt like an amnesty. If I had known earlier, I would have made up a reason in advance so that I could avoid being preached. Conan, why are you late today? Mitsuhiko asked Conan. It has nothing to do with you. Conan said coldly. I was originally unhappy in my heart, and after being lectured for a long time, Conan was even more unhappy. So when facing Conan, not angry either. Hey, Conan, what's your tone? People are just caring about you. How can you do this? Yuan-tai blamed Conan with great dissatisfaction. Mitsuhiko was also very unhappy. He was originally concerned about getting down to Conan, but Conan didn't give him any good anger at all. Of course, he would not feel better in his heart. Class is over. Don't talk anymore, the teacher said above. Because the teacher spoke, Yuan-tai and Mitsuhiko are not good at quarreling with Conan. Obediently listen to the teacher's lecture. But after class, Mitsuhiko asked Conan to give an explanation. Conan, I care about you kindly. You don't appreciate it, so why don't you apologize to me? Mitsuhiko said to Conan angrily. Conan threatened. Can you two go away for me? Conan clapped the table and stood up, then shocked Mitsuhiko and Genta. They still. And his sudden anger shocked them all at once. I didn't dare to speak for a while. Cut. Xiao-ai glanced at them, cut lightly, and turned her head away. Mitsuhiko and Yuan-tai's faces turned Yuhi, and Xiao-ai's performance just now seemed to be disdainful of them being frightened by Conan. As children, it was just to fight. Such self-esteem is naturally unbearable. In fact, Xiao-ai doesn't mean that, but thinks that they are very naive. Damn, it's obviously your fault, what's so fierce? Yuan-tai's big fist hit Conan at once. Conan was caught off guard and was knocked to the ground by Yuan-tai, Wong Li good punch. And after seeing the light, he was angry with Conan in his heart, and he also started to do it to Conan. What should Xiao-ai do? Conan was beaten 9 inches after Bu Gai saw it. He hurriedly asked Xiao-ai. Now Ayumi and Xiao-ai are at the same table. It was Conan Edogawa who was beaten. What does it have to do with us? Xiao-ai glanced at Ayumi, then said lightly, but the teacher said that fighting is wrong. If the teacher knows, will I be punished? Ayumi asked worriedly. The relationship is good, so Ayumi's heart will be worried. Fear that they will be punished by the teacher. Shouldn't the punishment be deserved? Xiao-ai didn't even look at it, lying on the table with a bored face. But Ayumi was very entangled at this time and wanted to persuade her, but she didn't dare to go up. Chapter 1054. Are you picking things up? Mita, Mitsuhiko, and Conan, can you stop fighting? Ayumi saw it in her eyes, anxious in her heart. Ayumi, it's useless for you to persuade like this. Come with me, I have a way to stop them from fighting. Xiao-ai stood up and took Ayumi out. Xiao-ai, where are you taking me? After leaving the classroom, Ayumi asked Xiao-ai. You definitely won't be able to stop them like this, so go and report it to the teacher. When the time comes, the teacher will come. They will stop. The corners of Xiao-ai's mouth curled slightly, and she said to Ayumi. Ayumi suddenly hesitated when she heard the words, do you really want to report it to the teacher? But the teacher knows that if they fight, they will definitely be punished. Fighting in school is a very serious matter. If you can't get it right, you will have to ask your parents. Even if you don't go, someone will tell the teacher, but this will make them fight for a while, and maybe there will be some problems. Xiao-ai said. Then let's go to the office to find the teacher. Bu Mei hurriedly went to the office, and soon came with the teacher. The teacher's name is Kobayashi Sumiko, who has short hair and looks somewhat similar to Sato Mawako, but one is a policeman and the other is a teacher. Kobayashi Sumiko once dreamed of becoming a policewoman. Later, she liked 060_children and devoted herself to the sacred cause of being an elementary school teacher. Teacher, hurry up. Conan and the others won't be good if they do something wrong. Ayumi urged Sumiko Kobayashi. Sumiko Kobayashi nodded helplessly, and at the same time didn't understand why Conan would fight with Genta and Mitsuhiko. Aren't they good friends? Even if there is a conflict, they won't fight easily. And Conan doesn't seem to be called precocious, and he shouldn't fight. But now is not the time to think so much. In fact, they are really fighting. Kobayashi Chunko believes that Ayumi will not lie. After all, Ayumi is the most well-behaved child. After coming to the classroom, Conan is still fighting with Yuanta and Guangdu. Hurry up and stop, Xiaolin Chengji shouted. He probably heard the voice of the head teacher, Kobayashi Chunko. Yuantai and Mitsuhiko immediately stopped and let go of Conan, who was pinned to the ground. Why are you two fighting? Kobayashi Chunko asked them. Conan, Yuanta, and Mitsuhiko were silent, but at this time they didn't speak. Conan, what's the matter, Chob, at? Kobayashi Chunko asked Conan angrily. But at this time, Conan believes that silence is golden, not a word, not to say. Kobayashi Chunko looked at Conan and became even more angry in her heart. Finally shook his head. Then he asked Yuantai and Mitsuhiko what was going on. Yuantai and Mitsuhiko didn't speak either. In fact, they have already begun to regret in their hearts now, but it seems that the regret is too late, and the teacher has already known it. Okay, you don't say yes. If that's the case, then let your parents come. Teacher, can you not let the parents come? Chengji said. No, Xiaolin Chengji shook his head. Immediately, Yuantai and Mitsuhiko turned into bitter faces, which was worse than any punishment. How about your injuries? Are you okay? Kobayashi Chunko asked about their injuries with concern. Fights are bound to hurt. At this time, Yuanta and Mitsuhiko had several more scars on their faces, of course. Compared to them, Conan looked even more miserable. It's okay. Conan touched some of the wounds on his face and said. Then I'll leave first. You can't continue fighting. Otherwise, I won't spare you lightly. Conan, Yuanta, and Mitsuhiko suddenly looked at Ayumi and Xiaoai when Kobayashi Chunko left. The teacher walked in with Ayumi and Xiaoai. This shows that the people who tell the teacher are them. Conan stared at Xiaoai, feeling that she told the teacher maliciously. Ayumi, why did you tell the teacher? Yuantai angrily asked Ayumi. This was for the parents. If his father knew that he was fighting in school, he would definitely teach him a lesson. In fact, Yuantai did not fight less in school. Because of his size, there were many people who were bullied by him, and they didn't dare to tell the teacher. Does it make sense for you to fight? If I don't tell the teacher, wouldn't you continue to fight? What if there is a problem? Ayumi was also a little angry. How could there be a problem? Also very dissatisfied with Ayumi's complaint. It's also said to be measured. Look at your faces, they are about to swell up. Ayumi threw a small mirror over. Both of you can't beat Conan Edogawa, what a shame. At this time, Xiaoai stabbed a knife in the hearts of both Mitsuhiko and Yuanta. Indeed, it was the two of them who beat Conan himself, but from the looks of it, they looked a little bit worse. Conan's expression changed, and he looked at Haihara Jing and asked, are you picking things up? That's right, you can think so. I'm looking forward to seeing you fight again, so that school life will be more interesting. Xiaoai smiled lightly, said to Conan, the two of us are just letting him, otherwise, we will definitely beat him. Yuantai said a little unconvinced. Fight or? It's the first time I suffered a loss. Yuantai was also quite unhappy in his heart, especially this time it was 2 fights. Well, it's mainly because of the two of them who attacked, not Conan's attack at all, that's why it looks more miserable. Otherwise, with Conan getting smaller now, how could he possibly be able to withstand Yuantai and Guangdu, especially Yuantai, who is completely a heavyweight. Just the weight of L can overwhelm Conan. If you feel unconvinced, you can fight him again. Xiaoai glanced at Yuantai and said. Conan's face darkened. Sure enough, this woman, Haibara I, was doing something. I'm afraid they wish they would fight. Kojima Genta, don't forget what Mr. Kobayashi said just now. Conan saw that Genta was about to start, and immediately reminded Genta that he didn't want to fight with Genta and Mitsuhiko again. The most important thing is that Haibara I, the woman who was with Hyuga-chen, was watching the fun, so let's talk about it. If you don't use the props in his hand, Conan really can't beat Yuanta. Looking at the injuries on his face now, it seems that Yuanta and Mitsuhiko are worse than him, but in fact, the injuries he suffered are definitely more of Conan's injuries. Chapter 1055. I'm angry, come and coax me. Yuantai and Mitsuhiko to look at Conan, thinking that teacher Kobayashi Chunji asked them to call them parents before, and if they dare to continue fighting, they will punish them severely. Conan glanced at Xiao Ai. He thought that Xiao Ai would be disappointed to see that they didn't fight. In fact, Conan thought too much. For Xiao Ai, there is nothing to be disappointed about. If they fight, Xiao Ai will be happy to watch the play, and it doesn't matter if they don't fight. In a blink of an eye, a day passed. Chen came to pick up Xiao Ai from school as usual. Along with Chen, of course, is the little Izumi Yuhiko. Why are you only here now? Xiao Ai asked towards Chen. Compared with the past, this time Chen came a little later, and it was not too late. Just a few minutes. Because some things were delayed, I came late. Chen said to Xiao Ai. What's the matter? Xiao Ai looked at Chen curiously. Not knowing when it started, Xiao Ai also became curious. If it was before, Xiao Ai would definitely not have much time. Now Xiao Ai has changed. It was because he was blocked by a group of women, so he came late. Little Izumi Yuhiko said directly to Xiao Ai. Xiao Ai heard the words and stared at Chen. Her face seemed to have no expression, but she stared at Chen tightly. What's the matter? Xiao Ai asked with a hint of heartiness in her tone. Yo, I saw Xiao Ai's jealous expression again. Xiao Izumi Yuhiko smiled wickedly. Humph. Xiao Ai snorted coldly at the little Izumi Yuhiko, then looked at Chen and ignored the little Izumi Yuhiko. Don't listen to Xiao Izumi Yuhiko's nonsense. In fact, there is nothing at all. Chen glared at Xiao Izumi Yuhiko, and then said to Xiao Ai. However, for Chen's words, Xiao Ai doesn't seem to believe it very much. She still looks at Chen with that skeptical qiguang, and is doubting Chen's words. Xiao Ai, don't you believe me? Chen asked Xiao Ai with a sad expression on his face. I don't believe it. I didn't believe it before. I don't believe it now. Xiao Ai nodded lightly, and then said to Chen, which made Chen's heart even more sad. Then Xiao Ai approached Chen and sniffed on his body, but did not smell any special fragrance, and suddenly Xiao Ai believed Chen's words in her heart. It seems that the little Izumi Yuhiko lied and did things on purpose. Although I believe it. However, Xiao Ai looks disgusted on the surface. There is no way Tsunere is like this. Although Xiao Ai has changed a lot, what can't be changed is still Xiao Ai's Tsunere. I'm afraid this can't be changed in a lifetime. Chen glanced at the little Izumi Yuhiko, and when he turned back, he must give the little Izumi Yuhiko some color to see. How dare you fall for him? Chen came a little late. It was because of other things, but it was not blocked by some group of beauties. Chen's heart seems to be so lustful. Let's go. Go back quickly. If you go back late, Mingmei will probably complain. Chen took Xiao Ai's hand and took Xiao Ai home. Hey, Chen, aren't you holding me? Aren't you afraid I'll get lost? Little Izumi Yuhiko quickly followed Chen, and then took the initiative to hold Chen's hand. Lost? It would be better if you got lost. Xiao Ai glanced at the little Izumi Yuhiko and said lightly. Xiao Ai, if you don't speak now, I might forget what happened in the morning. In the morning, I kindly sent you to school, but you actually drove me away halfway. Xiao Izumi Yuhiko put both hands on Xiao Ai on the head. Dangerously looked at Xiao Ai. Do you want to fight? I'm not afraid of you. Xiao Ai Yugang looked at Xiao Izumi Yuhiko and said lightly. Okay. Little Izumi Yuhiko responded directly, but she just agreed. Chen's fist landed on the heads of the two of them. Are you honest now? You still have to fight. Chen said with a light snort. Xiao Ai and Xiao Izumi Yuhiko gave Chen a dissatisfied look at the same time, and then the two walked in front, leaving Chen behind. What, are you too angry? Chen quickly chased after her and asked towards her door. Can't you see? I'm angry, come and coax me. Little Izumi Yuhiko said to Chen. Then how do you want me to coax you? I won't. Chen Tan said with his hands spread out, saying seriously, Chen really doesn't know how. This is your business, you can solve it yourself, don't ask me. Little Izumi Yuhiko turned her head and said, oh, if that's the case, then so be it. The little Izumi Yuhiko said, good, don't be angry. Uncle will buy you candy to eat soon. Asking for flowers, one little Izumi Yuhiko was stunned for a moment, and then got angry with Chen. Biting Kiba and looking at Chen. Hyuga-chen, stop for me. Little Izumi Yuhiko looked at Chen who ran far away, bit Kiba and chased after him. The corners of Xiao-Ai's mouth were slightly raised, and she unconsciously revealed a smile. After returning home soon, Chen went directly to his room, and then locked the door. As soon as Zai-chan came back, the little Izumi Yuhiko walked into the door angrily and looked at the angry little Izumi Yuhiko. Mingmei couldn't help asking, "Where's Xiao-Ai?" She was behind. Little Izumi Yuhiko pointed to the back and saw that Xiao-Ai had just walked into Taiman. "Mingmei, tell me, where did that guy Hyuga-chen go?" Little Izumi Yuhiko bit Kiba and said. Mingmei looked at little Izumi Yuhiko looking angry. He couldn't help but stunned for a moment. What's the situation? Could it be that Chen offended Yuhi? It should be like this, and seeing Yuhi's angry appearance, he was offended. Chen just ran back to the room. Went in. Mingmei said something to Xiao Izumi Yuhiko. Then Yugung looked at Xiao-Ai and asked Xiao-Ai in a low voice, "What's going on?" Xiao-Ai looked at her sister. Then she gave herself what happened before. My sister said it, and Mingmei instantly understood. Why is Yuhizi so angry? Chen, come out for me. If you don't come out, I'll smash the door and go in. Little Izumi Yuhiko knocked on the door and shouted to the inside. Sorry, there is no one in the house. Chen's voice came from the room. Is that the puppy barking now? After Xiao Izumi Yuhiko finished speaking, Chen immediately opened the door from inside. Little Izumi Yuhiko sneered. You are finally out now. It's actually said that I'm a puppy, can I not come out? Chen looked at the little Izumi Yuhiko fiercely. Then he pulled the little Izumi Yuhiko into the room. Then the door was closed and locked again. Xiao-Ai put down her schoolbag and glanced at the door of Chen's room, not knowing. Chen pulled the little Izumi Yuhi closer to the room and said what she wanted to know. She wanted to know whether Chen cleaned up the little Izumi Yuhi twice or whether the little Izumi Yuhi took revenge, but Xiao-Ai thinks that the former should be the most dead. Chapter 1056. I understand why you were beaten so badly. During dinner, Chen and Izumi Yuhiko didn't come out either. Mingmei originally wanted them to come out to eat. But after walking to the door, he heard the sound coming from the room, Mingmei's face or Yuhi, and then ran away in a panic. Didn't you ask Chen and the others to come to dinner? Why didn't they come? Yukiko looked at Mingmei and asked. Xiao-Ai looked at her sister Mingmei, and found that her sister was obviously wrong. Her face was too Yuhi. No, what's wrong with me? Mingmei concealed the Yuhi color on her face and asked Xiao-Ai. It doesn't feel right anywhere. Xiao-Ai looked at Mingmei and felt that something was wrong with Mingmei now. It should be related to Chen and Xiao Izumi Yuhiko, so, March 20 inches used Xiao-Ai to go and see. However, just as Xiao-Ai stood up, she was pulled by Mingmei. Looking at Xiao-Ai's suspicious eyes, Mingmei asked Xiao-Ai, where are you going? I'll go and call that guy Chen over for dinner. Xiao-Ai said to Mingmei, well, don't go and call them, they told me something. Don't eat anymore. Sit down and let's eat. Mingmei asked Xiao-Ai to sit down. Others listened to Mingmei's words, and then looked at Mingmei's expression, and already had some guesses in their hearts. But Xiao-Ai didn't understand it, and looked at Mingmei in confusion. Why did my sister have to organize her? Surely, if you go there, I can't help but teach you a lesson. Belmod glanced at Xiao-Ai and said. Xiao-Ai frowned and sat down. She glanced at Belmod. This woman seems to know, and everyone else seems to understand. Hiroshi Akasa's house. After Conan came back, Dr. Akasa and Hattori Heiji looked at some of the injuries on Conan's face and asked Conan, what's going on? Dr. Lee couldn't help asking. Did Hyuga-chen do it? Hattori Heiji asked angrily because he knew that Conan went to Hyuga-chen this morning, so Hattori Heiji would suspect that Hyuga-chen did it. If Chen knew, Hattori Heiji doubted again. To his head. Definitely slap him to death. No, Conan shook his head. What's going on? Don't be embarrassed to say it. Hattori Heiji continued to ask Conan. The teacher had a fight with others at school and asked the parents to go there. Conan said to Dr. Akasa and Hattori Heiji. If the parents are allowed to go, the only person Conan can find now is Mr. Akasa, and Heiji Hattori will definitely not work. At most Heiji Hattori is to act as an older brother, and he will definitely not be able to fool the past. At that time, teacher Chungji Shaoshu will definitely call his parents. Akasa Hiroju and Hattori Heiji's expressions were very strange at this time. After looking at each other, they looked at Conan. Conan actually fights with others at school. This is something they really didn't expect. Could it be something wrong? Conan, why did you fight with others? Who did you fight with? Dr. A. Lee asked Conan. If Conan is really just a schoolboy, Akasa Botu wouldn't be so surprised, but Conan is actually a high school student, so why would he fight with a group of elementary school students? I was a little bored and couldn't control myself, so I got into a fight. Conan said to Akasa Hiroshi. Who did you do with that? It looks like you've suffered a loss. Hattori Heiji looked at Conan, and Conan clearly sensed a contempt in Hattori's eyes. Suddenly Conan felt very unhappy in his heart. Why are you asking so much? Conan asked Hattori Heiji angrily. It doesn't matter if you don't say it. If I want to know, I will go to your Deaton Elementary School and ask about it. Hattori Heiji said with a pouted lip. Are you bored? Conan looked at Hattori Heiji angrily. You're really right. I'm quite bored right now, and I really want a case to come to me. Me, Mitsuhiko and Yuan, there was a conflict too, so I had a fight with the two of them. Conan finally said the same as Hattori Heiji said. If Hattori Heiji wants to know, it is easy to know, so there is no need to hide it. It turned out to be a fight with them, then I understand why you were beaten so badly. Hattori Heiji nodded and said that A is the weight of Yuanta. He is not clear, even if it is pressed on Conan's body, Conan can't move. It is estimated that Conan can't beat one, let alone two. Can you stop talking? Conan glanced at Hattori Heiji equals eyes, and then said, okay, I won't continue to pick up your scars. Hattori Heiji looked at the wound on Conan's face and smiled secretly. Quite a bit of schadenfreude. I was actually beaten by a primary school student. If it spreads out, Kudo Shinichi's face will be disgraced. Didn't you say no? Conan looked at Hattori Heiji angrily. By the way, doctor, I want you to do me a favor. I'll go to school tomorrow. Ah, I have to do research. Ali Botu scratched his hair. Said to Conan, Botu, leave your research for now. I understand that if you don't help me to stop Mr. Kobayashi, she will probably visit her home, and it will be more troublesome then. Conan said to Dr. A. Lee, yes. Don't let Hattori go. You can convince him that it's your brother. Anyway, I think you two really look a little bit alike. Dr. Agasa looked at Hattori Heiji and Conan, nodded and said. No, it's definitely not possible to let him go, the doctor will help. Otherwise, if the home visit wants to find my parents, then I really don't know what to do with Dao 5.1, and the trouble will be even greater. Okay, then I'll do you a favor, it's too bad to be busy tomorrow. Dr. Aga finally couldn't stand Conan's plea and agreed to Conan. Conan, do you feel ashamed of this kind of thing? Hattori Heiji turned to Conan. Asked. Looking at the smile on Hattori Heiji's face, Conan shouted directly, get out of here. Kindly care about your thoughts, you actually let me go. Really good intentions are not rewarded. Hee, are you really kind? Conan sneered, glanced at Hattori Heiji, then turned his head away without even looking at Hattori Heiji. He was clearly laughing at him, yet he actually said he was kind. Conan is so angry that he will beat people. If it is not considering that he can't beat Hattori Heiji now, he will really do it. Chapter 1057. I heard Chen say Yuhizi, you are not feeling well. Early the next morning, Chen and Xiaoai walked towards the school, while Xiaoai looked at Chen with a puzzled face. Where's little Izumi Yuhiko? Why doesn't she come along? Xiaoai asked Chen. Ahem, she's not feeling well today. So she took a day off. Chen coughed lightly towards Xiaoai, and then said. Uncomfortable. Xiaoai Yugong looked at Chen, always feeling that it was not that simple. Is it her illusion, or is it really not that simple? Do you think I'm too handsome when you look at me like this? Chen asked Xiaoai, who was staring at him with a slight smile. He pouted and said, "It always feels like you're changing the subject. Speaking of what happened to the little Izumi Yuhi, what did you guys do in the room yesterday?" Xiaoai asked Chen, rather inquisitively. In fact, it also reacted, "But it is 28 because I guessed it." Xiaoai's heart was more unchanged. "There is some sourness in my heart. If I said we didn't do anything, Xiaoai, would you believe it?" Chen looked at Xiaoai and asked. Xiaoai shook her head lightly. "Believe that if Chen said she didn't do anything. That's completely treating yourself as a fool. Anyway, that's my explanation. You don't believe, it's your business." Chen didn't say much. Take Xiaoai to school. After sending Xiaoai to the school, Chen also went to Deaton High School. Xiaolin, Yuanzi and Hehe, who came to the school early, saw that Zongyuan was only Chen alone, and suddenly it was a little strange. "Where's Yuhizi? What's wrong with her? Didn't you come?" Sonoko asked Chen. "Yuhizi is a little uncomfortable, so I will rest at home. I have already asked for leave," Chen said to Xiaolin and Yuanzi. "Uncomfortable, yes indeed, uncomfortable after all. The first time. Then how is Yuhizi now?" Xiaolin and the others asked Chen with concern. "Painting, this one, it's not serious. Then we'll wait after school. Go and see Yuhiko," Xiaolan suggested. "Okay, I agree." Sonoko nodded. Their relationship with Yuhiko is also very good. Now I hear that Yuhiko is uncomfortable. Of course I have to go and have a look. I believe Yuhiko will be very happy after you go. After school in the afternoon, they will not go back because the time for the old school at noon is very short. Therefore, they usually stay in the school to eat. After the old school in the afternoon, Xiaolin and the others follow Chen to pick up Xiaoai first. "I can't see you." Yuanzi waved at Xiaoai and said hello. Xiaoai looked at Yuanzi's indifferent expression towards Wu Xiaoai. Sonoko is not surprised now, and knows that Xiaoai's character is like this. Xiaoai looked at Chen with inquiring eyes. "I don't understand why her Zuku came over." That's it. Xiaolin and the others heard that Yuhizi was uncomfortable, so they were going to see Yuhizi's situation. Chen smiled and said to Xiaoai. "Oh." Xiaoai Shin glanced at her, then walked in front alone. After returning home soon after, Mingmei opened the door and looked at Xiaolin and the others who were standing behind, and was quite surprised. "Miss Xiaolin, Miss Sonoko, and Miss Yi are here too," Mingmei said to them with a slight smile. "Ms. Mingmei, you don't need to be so polite to us," Xiaolin couldn't help but say, "or all the visitors here. Of course you have to be more polite. Come in." Mingmei immediately invited them in. "Sister Mingmei, why didn't you see Yuhiko? How is she? I heard that she is not feeling well, so let's take a look." Mingmei glanced at Xiaolin and the others with a strange expression, then looked at her. Shang Chen. They would know that Yuhiko was not feeling well. Chen should have told them, but Chen still dared to say it. "Yuhiko is in the room, or I'll call her," Mingmei said. "No need. Let's go and have a look." Xiaolan immediately shook her head, preparing to go to Yuhiko's room to see Yuhiko. "Then I'm going to cook, so let Chen take you there," Mingmei said. Chen shrugged, then brought Xiaolin and the others to Yuhizi's room. The door was not locked. After opening the door, he saw Yuhizi sitting. "How are you, Yuhiko?" Chen asked Yuhiko with a smile. Yuhiko couldn't help but glared at Chen and then saw Xiaolin and the others. When she saw Xiaolin and the others, Yuhiko's heart was quite hurt. "Xiaolan, why did you guys come here? Why, aren't you welcome?" Yuanzi came over and sat beside Yuhizi and asked Yuhizi, "I heard Chen say that Yuhizi is not feeling well." Yuhizi asked towards Chen. Glancing at Chen, she nodded to Chen Zi secretly, and then nodded to Yuanzi. If she was asked to go to school, she would definitely not be able to do it. "So how is it now? Is it better?" Xiaolan asked with concern. "It's okay now, thank you Xiaolin for your concern." Yuhizi stood up and said, "It has been a day, and now Yuhizi has recovered, but in Yuhizi's heart, there is still quite a bit of resentment towards Chen." She even told Xiaolin and the others, "It's good to see Xiaolin and the others don't seem to know the truth, so Yuhi's heart is a little more at ease." you're fine. Xiaolan and the others saw that Yuhizi really had nothing to do, so 580 was relieved. What are you still standing here for? Sonoko, are you standing here too much? You were right. Sonoko asked Xiaolan and the others, that's right. I also think it's redundant. Yuhiko glanced at Chen, then nodded and said, look at Yuhiko. Chen secretly bit Kiba. Okay, it seems that if you don't give you a little bit of power, you don't know what family law is. In the end, Chen was driven out of the room by Yuhizi and Xiaolan and the others. Chen, who was kicked out, looked rather depressed. Looking at your expression, you don't seem to be very happy. Belmod looked at Chen with a smile on his face. You can hear it 3, so you are watching my joke on purpose right now. Chen looked at Belmod and said, where is it? I don't have it. After all, even if you gave me 10 courage, I'm afraid I wouldn't dare to read your jokes. Belmod shook his head and said. Chen looked at Belmod and sneered, because he was watching his jokes, and he had to find a chance to clean up. Chapter 1058. Isn't it Ma? Chen, weren't you in Yuhizi's room just now? How did you come out now? Could it be that you were kicked out? Yukiko, the urge to hit someone rose in her heart. Yuchizi, don't force me to beat people. Chen glanced at Yuchizi and said. Could it be Chen, are you really willing to do anything to me? Are you really willing? Yukiko asked Chen with shining eyes. There's nothing to bear with this. If you don't believe it, you can come over and try it out. Chen gestured to Yuchizi, but Yuchizi wouldn't be so foolish. What? I'm not that stupid, Yuchizi said with a glance at Chenbai. Chen, don't you explain what happened between you and Xiao Izumi Yuhiko? Xiaoai asked Chen, staring at Chen. Although his face was expressionless, Chen felt a sourness emerge from Xiaoai's body, and it was very strong. Chen looked at Xiaoai, couldn't help but smiled, and then asked, Xiaoai, are you jealous? No, you think too much, Xiaoai said lightly. Really? Chen continued to ask Xiaoai. Really? Xiaoai couldn't help kicking Chen, and then said lightly. Chen didn't say anything, but smiled slightly. But Xiaoai felt that Chen's smile was rather dazzling, so she couldn't help but gently kick Chen again. Chen, Xiaoai actually dared to kick you. You are getting more and more courageous. Don't you teach her a lesson? Yuchizi suddenly said to Chen. Yuchizi was afraid that the world would not be in chaos. Of course I want to see a good show. Chen and Xiaoai glanced at Yukiko at the same time, and then said at the same time, I think I should teach you a lesson. The two of you are talking quite in sync. Belmod looked at Chen and Xiaoai and said. Who is in sync with him? Xiaoai glanced at Chen and snorted coldly. Now Xiaoai has some resentment towards Chen in her heart. Well, the resentment in Xiaoai's heart is not small. Anyway, it is not good. As for whether it is jealous, this Xiaoai does not know. The meal is ready, do you want to eat? Mingmei came out of the kitchen at this time and asked Chen and the others. What's the matter with you, Xiaoai? Mingmei saw Xiaoai's face was cold and seemed unhappy. Immediately asked Xiaoai. Of course it's the big villain Chen who bullied her. Yukiko said suddenly. Pai glanced at Yukiko. In my heart, I was already thinking about how to deal with Yuchizi. If I didn't give Yuchizi some color, Yuchizi would not know how powerful a Yuchizi was. Under the gaze of Chen's eyes, Yuchizi felt a little hairy, but in fact, I started to regret it in my heart. And Belmod looked at Yukiko, who was not afraid of death, and admired Yukiko quite a bit. She hoped that Yukiko would not regret it later. Chen, did you really bully Xiaoai? Mingmei asked Chen. Do you think I'll bully an elementary school cow? Chen asked Mingmei with his eyes, and then Chen glared viciously at Naokiko. It's over, I will definitely not let me go, I feel like I'm going to die. Yukiko couldn't help but said to Kuroba Chikage. Kuroba Chikage looked at Yukiko and didn't say anything. Even if it was really finished, it seemed like Yukiko was killing herself. You said I was a primary school student again. Xiaoai stared at Chen stubbornly. Isn't it? Chen said, reaching out and touching Xiaoai's head, looking at Xiaoai with a smile. Xiaoai angrily opened Chen's hand. Lang Hum, Sheng didn't even look at him. According to Chen's understanding of Xiaoai, it is estimated that he won't talk to him for several days. I'll go and call Yuhiko and the others. Chen said, stood up, walked towards Yuhiko's room, and pushed open the door directly. You guys still have to talk about horses. You have to eat. Chen said to Yuhizi, Shaolin, Yuanzi and Hai. I didn't see them talking so much when I was in school. It's time to eat. Did Sister Mingmei cook? I haven't eaten for a long time. Sonoko's eyes lit up slightly. When you are free, Yuanzi, you can learn how to cook at home. Shaolin said to Yuanzi. However, Sonoko shook his head. Shaolin said, this is too troublesome, I feel like I can't do it. Even if Yuanzi had nothing to do, he would never cook, and it felt like cooking was too much trouble. It tastes more delicious when I make it myself. I'm now learning to cook with Shaolin. Kazuya said to Yuanzi, Hee, are you cooking dark dishes? I hope you don't take Shaolin out of the way. Good, Chen Hao said with a smile. What nonsense, what kind of dark cooking? Am I someone who can make dark cooking? He asked Chen angrily, isn't it? Shaolan, tell him, my cook how's the art? He looked at Shaolin and Shaolin's face suddenly became embarrassed when she heard the words. Don't embarrass Shaolan. Shaolan is a very kind girl. If you tell her to lie, she really can't do it. Yuanzi smiled secretly, and then said to Hee. Yuanzi, today I want to make you look good. Hee shouted to Yuanzi. I feel like I'm good looking now, so I don't need you anymore. Sonoko shook his head towards Hee, and then ran out of the room in order to avoid being cleaned up by Hee. HMPH, damn garden. Hee snorted and said angrily. Let's go out to eat. Shaolin followed and walked out. Wait, Shaolin, you haven't said how my cooking is. Hee shouted at Shaolin. And Yi Li's Shaolin is saving face for you. After all, Shaolin is not good at lying. If you tell the truth, it will blow your confidence too much. So you have to understand Shaolin. Buy it. Chen reached out and patted Hee on the shoulder, then said to Hee earnestly. HMPH. I'll never say a word to you again. Hee Shangshan snorted coldly, and then walked out of Yuhizi's room. Then Haochen's eyes turned to the little Izumi Yuhi. Looking at the little Izumi Yuhi, Chen couldn't help but say, how are you doing now, can you act on your own? I'm fine. The little Izumi Yuhi gave Chen a dark look, and then said. Why are you staring at me? Chen asked the little Izumi Yuhiko, a little depressed. What do you think? Don't you still understand? If you don't understand, then you can think about it yourself. Little Izumi Yuhiko said to Chen with some resentment, because he made him weak for a day. Chapter 1059. How do I feel you are hinting at me? By the way, Shaolin, have you called your father? Will he be worried? When he was eating, he suddenly thought of something and immediately said to Shaolin. Forget this. Shaolin patted her head a little confusedly, then immediately took out her mobile phone, and called Maori Kogoro. Hey, Dad, I won't go back for dinner today. I'm here now, Dad, you eat it yourself today. What, Shaolin, you're not coming back. What will I eat if you don't come back? I can't cook. Maori Kogoro on the other end of the phone jumped up immediately, and then immediately asked, Shaolan, wouldn't you want to spend the night with Chen Shaozi? Although I don't object to you being together, you must not do something outrageous. Dad, what did you say? I hung up. Shaolan hung up the phone shyly. I didn't expect his father to say such a thing. And the voice he used was too lady. Originally, Shaolan didn't avoid Chen and the others to call. And her father used so much noise. When 627 spoke, I guess everyone else in the room should have heard it. Thinking of this, Shaolin's face was Yuhi's. She lowered her head and didn't know what to say. She secretly complained to Kogoro Mori. A bowl of miso soup. At this time, Mingmei broke Shaolin's embarrassment and asked Shaolin with a smile. Okay. Shaolin nodded. Mingmei took the bowl and filled Shaolin with a bowl of miso soup. Shaolin immediately politely said, Thank you, Sister Mingmei. Other people didn't want Shaolin to be embarrassed. So they didn't say anything, which made Shaolin relieved. After eating, Shaolin and the others were going to leave. If they don't leave, it will be dark. Don't spend the night here, I promise I won't do anything out of the ordinary. At this time, Chen suddenly teased Xiaolin and said. Xiaolin's face flushed Yuhi when she heard the words, and then she glared at Chen, feeling extra shy in her heart. Chen, what are you talking about? Xiaolan raised her fist and threatened Chen. Xiaolan's fist is very powerful. A solid cement Jinchuriki column can leave a hole with one punch. However, for Chen, there is no deterrent. If Xiaolan words to stay, so can we stay too? Sonoko and Kazuyi suddenly asked Chen. Is this a question? In fact, I just welcome Xiaolin to stay, so let's forget your words. Damn, Xiaolin, hurry up and beat him. I'll help you, he immediately said to Xiaolin. Just kidding, if you stay here. Of course I would welcome it. Chen said with a slight smile. No, Xiaolin shook her head with Yuhi's face. Xiaolin refused, and he must be embarrassed to stay here, and Yuanzi also looked at Xiaolin and Kazuya. Of course, she chose to follow Tailiu. In that case, I will send you back. Chen said to Xiaolin and the others. This Xiaolin and the others didn't refuse. If they walked back, I'm afraid it would be late at night when they got home. Also, they were very tired walking. If you don't tell me, I'll let you take me back. Yuanzi said. Xiaolin and Hai are okay. Xiaolin's home is not too far from here, and Hai still lives in Xiaolin's house. But Yuanzi is different. Yuanzi lives just away from here. It's too far. If Yuanzi is allowed to walk back, he may not be home at 10 o'clock in the evening. Chen drove Xiaolin and the others back. Of course, Xiaolin and He first. After all, the two of them are compared to each other near. After sending Xiaolin and Hai, Chen drove Yuanzi home. On the way, Yuanzi didn't speak. Chen couldn't help but ask suspiciously. Why don't you talk to Yuanzi? If the quiet one is Xiaolin, Chen doesn't feel any doubts, but Sonoko is not CIDT kind. She has a lively personality, and just likes to babble. Now that she's quiet, Wuyu suddenly feels out of habit. Well, Chen, there is a question I want to ask you. Sonoko said to Chen. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Of course, if I don't answer, it's not certain. Chen said to Sonoko with a smile. Actually, I wanted to ask something about Yuhiko. Is it something? Chen asked Sonoko. Forget it. I still don't ask. Sonoko finally didn't ask. In fact, Sonoko just wanted to ask if Tatsu and Yuhiko had that kind of relationship. But in the end Sonoko was embarrassed to ask, and even if she asked, Tatsu might not tell her. It didn't take long. After arriving at Yuanzi's house, Yuanzi looked at Chen and asked, Chen, do you want to go in and take a seat? No, let's go another day. It's too late today, I have to go back. Chen shook his head towards the garden. Oh, just stay here with me. Today, I am the only one at home, and I am very scared by myself. Sonoko said to Chen. How do I feel that you are implying me? Chen looked at Sonoko and said involuntarily. What are you implying? Sonoko was stunned for a moment, but after a while, Sonoko suddenly came back to his senses and looked towards Sonoko. Chen Wei glared at Kun. Chen, what are you thinking about? I didn't suggest anything to you. I won't leave you, let's go. Sonoko was annoyed and threw people directly. Okay, then I'll go. Chen waved at Sonoko, then left. Hello, really gone? Sonoko looked at Chen who was driving high, and couldn't help but pouted. Sonoko, what are you doing standing at the door? Who were you talking to just now? Suzumoto Ayako's voice suddenly came from behind Sonoko. Sonoko turned around immediately, looking startled. Who? You scared me to death. Sister, do you have no sound when you walk? And sister, didn't you follow your mother to talk about cooperation? Why did you come back? Quote. Sonoko looked at Suzuki Ayako in surprise, but luckily Chen didn't stay, otherwise her sister would see it. Then I don't know what her sister would think. Go back. Why should I care what my sister thinks? Even if it's a real misunderstanding. Sonoko thinks that he should be more willing. Mom left first and didn't wait for me, so I didn't go. Who was that person just now? Could it be Sonoko's boyfriend? 8 trigrams asked Sonoko. No, it would be great if it was. Not to mention you don't have a boyfriend yet. How could I have a boyfriend? Sonoko shook his head towards Ayako. Why are you asking so many questions? I'm going back to rest. Sonoko obviously didn't want to answer, and went straight into the house. Chapter 1060. Why are you so wary of me? You actually came back. Belmont and the others looked at Chen with surprised expressions on their faces. What do you mean? If I don't come back, where am I going? Chen glanced at them and said involuntarily. Who knows where you'll be going, but I'm quite surprised that you can come back. The shock is already on the face. I guess they are going to go to hell in Genshin. I glanced at them, and Chen sat down. I went down and ignored them. I turned on the TV and watched it. I said that I haven't watched TV for a long time. Remind the residents of Mika Town that there have been several incidents of gangsters attacking and killing recently at night, and I hope the residents will try not to go out at night. Chen couldn't help showing surprise when he heard the news. At the same time, he thought, no wonder he encountered so few pedestrians on the road when he came back. It turned out that he didn't dare to go out. This is already in the newspaper. Mingmei took out a newspaper, which also had information about this. The movement is getting bigger and bigger, and the murderer has not been caught. Mawako said, Mawako, shouldn't you be responsible for catching this murderer? Chen asked Mawako. No, this case is actually the responsibility of the police officer Mumu, not me. I am also responsible for the specific case. Don't understand. Mikazu Sato shook her head slightly. She didn't know if Officer Kimu had any clues. But she only knew that the murderer had not been caught yet. Oh, this seems to have nothing to do with us. Chen nodded, and then ignored it. It would be fine if the murderer didn't stare at him. If he did stare at him, he would definitely die. Besides, the other party seemed to have no reason to stare at him. Chen found out that it was still news about that incident. Are there so many stations broadcasting this news? Isn't he that afraid of causing panic? Chen shook his head and said involuntarily, there are some TV stations that dare to broadcast anything for the sake of ratings. Rather than one or two. Mawako is not surprised. Forget it. Don't watch it. Chen Yukui turned off the TV, and looked at the little Izumi Yuhiko who was sitting next to him eating potato chips. What do you want to do? After noticing Chen's gaze, little Izumi Yuhiko asked Chenji vigilantly. Dao-e looked at the vigilant appearance of the little Izumi Yuhiko. Chen has an urge to want Yi Shui, so why are you so vigilant towards me? Why are you so vigilant towards me? Chen couldn't help asking the little Izumi Yuhiko. Don't you know, I won't forget what happened last night. Also, I haven't recovered yet. Little Izumi Yuhiko glanced at Chen and said. Cough, I won't do anything. Chen said to the little Izumi Yuhiko after coughing twice. However, just after Chen finished speaking, the little Izumi Yuhiko cast a contemptuous look at Chen, despising Chen very much. Well, it seems that not only the little Izumi Yuhiko is despising Chen, but even Belmode and the others next to him are also casting a contemptuous look at Chen. Chen was depressed. You don't believe what I said. But there is no need to despise me, it makes me very uncomfortable. After coming to school the next morning, Izumi Yuhiko also came this time, and it was all right. Of course, she will come to school. What are you talking about? Yuanzi, Shaolin and the others who came to the school early had already started chatting. Chen, who had just come in, didn't know what they were talking about. Chen, did you know that a student in our school was killed last night? Sonoko asked as he approached Chen. I really don't know this. Chen shook his head. Actually, we just found out, or Sonoko told us. Shaolin said to Chen. In fact, Shaolin and the others were wondering why Sonoko's news was so well informed. As long as there is any news from the school, Sonoko seems to be the first to know the same. How did you know Yuanzi? Chen really couldn't help it. Asked the garden. Humph. This is my secret, and I can't tell you. Sonoko didn't mean to tell Chen at all. Forget it. In fact, I have no interest in knowing. Chen shook his head slightly and said, really? Sonoko leaned over and asked Chen. Of course it's true. You thought I really wanted to know where you got these 8 trigrams messages. I tell you, the student who was killed in our school this time. The murderer is the murderer who committed the murder these days. Sonoko said. Asking for flowers. 10 The homicide cases in recent days have been very noisy. Not only can it be seen on TV, but many people are discussing it now. Actually, my father is also giving Officer Mew Mew help to investigate the murderer. Xiao Lan said. That's right, Maori Kogoro is also investigating some things about the murderer. Of course, this is also Maori Kogoro hired by the police officer Kimu. If the case can be solved in the end, he will also give Maori Kogoro some rewards. Of course, if you don't solve the case, you won't let Mori Kogoro go in vain. After all, if you ask for help, the reward will definitely not be small. And this is still a dangerous task. So the police officer Kimu will not kung Mori Kogoro. After all, he and Mori Kogoro were colleagues in the past, and they had a good relationship with each other. It turns out that your father is investigating. Does that mean you have found something? Sonoko asked Shaolin. Yuanzi was very curious about the results of the investigation. Shaolin shook her head and said, there is no clue. The dead people have no connection with each other at all, and it is impossible to find out the motive of each other's murder. It seems that it is a pity, but I must be careful recently. Sonoko, in fact, the most important thing is you, Sonoko. Chen looked at Yuanzi and said. Yuanzi looked at Chen with a question mark on his face, not understanding what Chen meant. Like Shaolin and Kazuya, they have enough strength to protect themselves, but you are different. If Shaolin and Yi's fighting strength are strong enough to face them, I'm afraid they will be beaten down by 2 moves. But Yuanzi is different. Yuanzi has no fighting strength at all. Then why don't you come to protect me? How about being my flower protector? Sonoko asked Chen. The flower protector is better. I don't see you as a flower at all. Chen ruthlessly shook his head towards Yuanzi and asked Yuanzi, Chen, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not a flower at all? Yuanzi asked Chen angrily, grabbing Chen's hand. If Dayuchen didn't give her a perfect explanation, she would not let go. Shaolin and the others looking at each other, I couldn't help but feel a little helpless.